Welcome back to another video, and as you can probably tell by the title of this video, this is going to be a very thorough, very honest, very in-depth review of ALPHALETE's brand new pump collection and the entire drop that is happening on June 28, 12 PM CST, 6 PM UK time. Code AMY will save you 10% off your order. It helps me out massively. It helps to further my relationship with the brand. It lets them know that you guys enjoy these reviews and that you find them helpful, and basically helps me to keep working with them. So if you do like anything from the drop and you decide you want to get it and you want to support me, you can do so by shopping with my code. And like I said, it will get you 10% off. With that being said, I do also run monthly giveaways for people who do use my code. The details for that will be in the description below, but all you need to do is send me a screenshot. Having said that, it's really important to me to make sure that I'm giving back to you guys regardless of whether you are in a position to support me financially or not. Let's be real, support comes in all shapes and sizes, all forms. It doesn't have to always be that you are going out and buying something, and considering I speak a lot about not over consuming and not always buying shit, it's important to me to make sure that I'm giving back to people who maybe aren't in the financial position to be able to support me through buying things and using codes, but also perhaps actually just taking heed of my advice when it comes to overconsumption. But all you need to do is leave a comment below letting me know which colour you are most excited for or which item you are most excited for in this drop, and I will pick 2 of you at the middle of next week. Yeah, the only reason that I'm able to keep pumping out these reviews and I've been able to do it for so long is purely because of your guys' support. I'm so grateful. So if you do use my code, please message me on Instagram so that I can personally thank you. I always make sure that I get back to any questions, any code uses, any messages, full stop. I always reply to every single person on Instagram. Please, if you do shop with my code, also send me it on Instagram just so that I can personally thank you. But I also love nosying at what you guys pick up. I love seeing if we're similar or if we're polar opposite in taste, because we're all so different, and I feel like that's the beauty of activewear. I'm going to put my measurements on the screen here so that you guys have them for reference, so that when I'm talking about sizing and stuff through the video, if you've got similar measurements to me, you might be able to steal my sizing, something like that, or even if it's just a helpful reference point. I know that it's really hard when they drop a new line, like a brand new line. I've spoken about this pretty much since I started working with them, and I used to have the time and the facilities and the space to also be able to try and do videos before launch, but obviously that's not always possible, and especially with me living at home right now, I don't have the space to have like multiple people in a room with me. We don't have rooms that big in my house. It can be really hard to see these items, first of all, on different skin tones, because ALPHALETE do lack diversity massively when it comes to skin tones, ethnicities, when it comes to their like athlete and affiliate roster, especially when it comes to who's actually posting like in-depth try-on hauls, and also with sizing. So I do want to signpost ALPHALETE have a full try-on video on their channel, and they have someone who has a much deeper skin tone than me trying on tenacity pieces, and for pump they have someone who is a size large and also tall. So hopefully that will help you guys who maybe need a bit of a different sizing reference, or you want to see what different colours look like on different skin tones. Obviously it goes without saying that's something I believe that they still do need to work on, but I'm going to signpost that and link it below. There's just 2 things that I want to disclaim really quickly, which is first of all just clearing up some confusion, because I think there has been some on Instagram. I've been posting little bits of pump, little mini reviews, little mini notes on some of the pieces, and because of those new roles that got announced in January and me having one that has something more to do with design, I think wires have been crossed, or not even crossed. I would assume the same thing, but quite a lot of people have been asking me like, well, why didn't you say, or are you not able to change these things? I wasn't involved in the creation of pump at all. First time actually trying these, like working out in them and having a pair to properly test out, was a week ago. So I wasn't involved in like the manufacturing process, the design process, the tweaking process. I wasn't involved with these pieces, any of them. I wasn't involved with any of the last drops creation, wasn't involved with the February drops creation, because obviously they create things a lot more in advance. Yesterday I did actually receive my first box of samples that I've had since I've had this new role, so hopefully going forward there will be involvement, but I honestly don't think you're going to see that reflected until mainly going into 2026. I just wanted to clear that up really quickly, because I also appreciate it's probably really annoying to hear someone just critiquing shit non-stop, and you might be sat there thinking, well, isn't this literally your job? Like, aren't you meant to be involved in this? No, I'm not involved in everything. There's actually a lot I haven't been involved in. It's not my company, so even the bits I am involved in, I can give feedback, I can give my input, I can give my opinion, but ultimately it's never going to be me making the final say, and that's totally fine because it's not my company and they need to take multiple opinions into consideration. But I just wanted to clear that up. Second disclaimer, which I always give, is obviously we have a rack full of clothes in this video. This is not normal. Owning this amount of shit is not normal. I would not suggest you buy this much stuff every drop. It is not normal. The only reason I get so many pieces is because I work with the brand and it's my job to review these pieces. So if I don't have them, I can't give you guys sizing advice, I can't test them out for you, I can't give my honest feedback on them for you guys, so it wouldn't be very helpful. That's why I started to be able to help people with actual honest feedback on sizing, fit, quality, colours, everything like that. You do not need to consume on this level, nor would I suggest that you do. Someone who owns a lot of activewear, I can promise you, you are probably always going to have your 5 to 10 favourite colours, favourite pieces that you cycle through. And you might buy new things, but how many times have we bought new things drop to drop to drop when brands are always dropping things because they're very launch based, they're very launch heavy. And in 2 months time, you realise some of it's still got tags on, and some of the stuff that you were dying for 6 months ago, you've actually not touched in 3 months. And remember, if it's not a hard yes, it's a hard no. If you are on the fence about things, I would always personally skip on it, or you can always wait for a sale period. Yeah, please never feel pressured to shop or feel like you need to consume on this level, because it's not normal. I'm going to go through the colour palette and colour comparisons first, but I'm just letting you guys know here, if you want to see any of the colour comparisons, colour wheel measurements, side by sides, like pictures of like pump versus contour, pump versus DFYNE, Google Drive for that will be linked below. I'm going to slot them in if and where they make sense throughout the video, for example with the measurement, but to be honest, I want the video, I feel like it makes more sense to focus it more how things actually look on body, because measurements can be helpful, but also stretch and stuff, it impacts rise, so things might measure the same but they might look differently. I want to focus more on how things actually fit and look in this video, but if you want to see any of the measurements, any of the colour comparisons, colour wheels, anything like that, not having to screenshot it from the video, basically those will be linked in the Google Drive below. So I'm going to go through the Tenacity colour palette first, because you've actually got 2 different colour palettes for this launch, and the only colour that comes in both is ultraviolet. Other than that, they are 2 separate palettes. So for the Tenacity palette, you have black, which I didn't actually get any of the Tenacity pieces in black because there was so many colours between Tenacity and Pump stuff that I wanted to make sure I got something of everything. This is ultraviolet, this is her in Tenacity. Just to show you side by side now, this is her in Pump. So they do look slightly different, but they do match up pretty well in my opinion. The only difference is with the seamless. It never looks as flat. Now this seamless shade isn't exactly marl, but obviously Tenacity is a brushed fabric, so I feel like the colours just transfer a little bit denser. And then with the seamless, this is it up close. It does have a slight marl to it. It's pretty flat. It's just that all seamless in my opinion, if you look at it for too long, it's all got a slight marl to it, but it's not a marled colour. This colour is definitely one of the most unique in the drop, and this is honestly probably one of my favourite colours that ALPHALETE have ever done. I don't want to say blurple because it's not blue at all, but I feel like when you put it next to electric purple, for example, it makes it look a little bit more blue tone. But then when you put it next to blues, you're like, oh shit, that's purple. But I feel like ALPHALETE, when it comes to purples, they really lack having pretty purple. A lot of their purples, for example, acai berry, which I'll go on to with the seamless, very similar to Nebula, and they're very like Barney looking purples, which for me personally, it's just not my favourite sort of shade. They don't have any real proper purples other than really electric purple. Obviously they had Twilight, but that's significantly darker. And out of the actual colours, this is definitely my favourite colour in this drop. And from the feedback I've seen from you guys so far, it's a lot of your guys as well. So I think this colour is going to do incredibly well. She looks stunning with a lot of different colours. Even though she's a little bit on the brighter side, she's definitely easy to pair, especially honestly with a lot of the colours in this drop, but also with a lot of previous colours as well. You definitely don't need to be going out and buying a whole new matching set, but if you are in the market for a more unique colour in the drop, ultraviolet would be top for me. Next up, whilst we're on the topic of more unique colours, this is neon coral. This is how it looks. It's even a little bit more saturated in person, but because this is neon, you can see when I put this next to me, it actually completely changes the lighting of the shot, so it's really hard to get it to show accurately, but this is perfectly described. It's a neon coral shade. It's like the coral highlighter shade. Now, in comparison to Heat from Tenacity last year, that's a lot more saturated and a lot brighter. This is still definitely a bright. It's definitely, I would say it's the peachy equivalent to Aurora if you really liked that colour. And again, it's only coming in Tenacity. A lot of people are really sad that this isn't coming in Pump. I think this would have done incredibly well in Seamless, because again, ALPHALETE just don't have many coral colours. They're really lacking in corals. Purple's sort of similar to ultraviolet, and they're really lacking like aqua-y blues, like lighter blues, brighter, more saturated blues, but on the lighter scale of things, or like mint sort of shades. They really lack in those, so I hope that we see those coming up. But it is nice to see them doing actual different colours, because when I went to do colour comparisons for this, I was like, nothing that similar. And again, it's tenacity, so it's completely flat. There's no marl to it whatsoever. Then we have a neutral, is called silver. So when I got this out, I was expecting it to be like silver sky. It's not. This sort of sits between silver sky and undercloud. It actually really reminds me of an old colour that ALPHALETE had. I think it was called shark grey. I think this is pretty much one-to-one with that. So it's not as light as silver sky, light grey shade, but it's nice to see that with this colour palette, they've tried to balance colours and brights with neutrals a little more, which I feel like I've been lacking in doing, and also giving nice neutrals. You are in the market for a light grey shade, stunning, and again, it's tenacity, so it's completely flat. There's no marl to it whatsoever. And then finally, you have cerulean, I don't know how you say that. Again, this is really bright. You can see that when I hold it up to me, it completely changes the tone of the camera. I would say how it's picking up here is very accurate to how it looks in person. Kind of reminds me of Rapids Blue, but the ALPHALETE version. So if you had that bra, that's what this reminds me of. Not Rapids Blue Amplify, but the Rapids Blue ALPHALETE bra. Beautiful aqua toned blue, basically, and it's definitely on the brighter side. Typically, I feel like ALPHALETE's audience tend to prefer seamless, so it's kind of sad when like the really unique colours aren't coming in that, other than your ultraviolet. I'm not even a particularly bright colour person, but I would really like to see this sort of shade done seamless. And again, it's one of those colour palettes that they're really lacking in, those sort of aqua blue shades. But yeah, this is cerulean. Moving on, we've then got the seamless colour palette. So obviously, like I've already explained, ultraviolet and black are coming in both tenacity and seamless, but other than that, they are separate colour palettes. First up, we've got emerald. Don't mind the drawing, it will make sense when we get further into the video. Emerald has dropped before. This looks pretty much identical. It looks a little bit different, but it's hard for me to say it actually is, because ultimately I've worn emerald multiple times and I've washed it, and with bright, they do leak. That's something that I want to make really clear. You need to be really careful in terms of where you dry it. So you don't want to dry it anything. If you're air drying it, don't dry it near any lights. Don't put it in the wash with lights, which I know might seem obvious, but it does bleed on the bright colours. So make sure you're washing them separately and drying them separately. Otherwise, your lights will get completely mashed up in the washing machine. The thing that I did notice is I don't know if it's because of like fabric differences and stuff, but when this is on body, it looks like it has much more of a marl to it as well, which I don't notice with the original emerald. In terms of comparing this to Grove, if you weren't around for emerald, this is way less jewel toned. So Grove is much more of a jewel toned green. In my opinion, it's a little bit of a prettier green. I actually prefer it to emerald. Emerald was super popular when it dropped, so it makes sense that they've brought it back, what I would describe as fuck off green. Like, it's a bright mid-tone sort of green. Alice Blue, this has obviously launched before a very long time ago, and then it came back in February for the birthday sale drop in Revive, and it's pretty much identical. Again, hard to say because my Revive looks a little bit lighter and a bit more washed out compared to this, but I have washed it, so it's really hard to say. But it's basically just a royal blue shade. It does have a slight bit of marl if you look close enough, but it's not a colour where I would look at it and say that's a straight up marl. It's a royal blue. ALPHALETE have a lot of these sort of shades of blues, and I know that they do well and people enjoy them, but I wish they would sort of tap into more of those sort of aqua shades and lighter blues that we don't really have any of. Then we've got acai berry, which looks really similar to purple noir on here, but it's actually not. This is closest to Nebula, so if you liked Nebula from the sort of split logo drop, but you maybe didn't love the split logo, this is a really good option because they are pretty much identical. There's a slight difference. They're honestly pretty much identical. It's a bright sort of grey. I would describe this as more of a Barney purple, whereas obviously with ultraviolet, it's more of like a periwinkle sort of purple shade. This one's more of like your typical grape Barney purple shade, and it looks really stunning on a lot of skin tones, and this is how it looks up close. We then have white, which doesn't have colour comparisons because it is just white, but I wanted to highlight Pump comes in white, both in bras, jackets and shorts. People that wanted a white seamless short, your prayers have been answered. But just to clarify, this is white. It's straight up white. It's not ivory, it's not off-white, it's just bright paper white. You can see it matches my white tips of my nails. Then we have two brownie neutral shades for Pump, which I'm really excited about because I love a neutral tone. I think it would be nice, and I know that no one would want an all neutrals drop. These two neutrals, Sahara, which I keep calling Sandcastle, it's not called Sandcastle, and Espresso, I'll show you in a second. I feel like they only in this drop really pair with each other. They don't look amazing with any of the other colours. I feel like and because of that they might not do as well because they're not pairable, if that makes sense. I feel like when it comes to neutrals, they're not always given a fair shot because they're put in a drop that doesn't really make sense. Like, it's nice from a point of view that you've given people options, nicer to put the neutrals in a drop with something where things are a bit more pairable, still colour maybe, but maybe different tones and different hues so that things can pair well together and people can make outfits easier. These two stick out like a sore thumb in this drop, and it's nothing against the colour, they're just really hard to pair within the drop. So this is Sahara, and I thought I would love this as much as I love my linen, my Grand Central, but this one's actually quite a bit warmer than linen and Grand Central. So if you, for example, found that hazelnut was a little bit too yellow, a little bit too warm toned on you, I think you might have the same issue with Sahara. And I loved hazelnut at first, but then linen came out and Grand Central came out, and I'll be honest, I've not worn it since because I realised creamy nude looked a lot better on me. This one has more of like that orangey yellow undertone to it, if that makes sense. In terms of like marl or anything, this one is honestly completely flat. It doesn't really look like it has any feathering to it whatsoever, but this is definitely a warmer nude shade. It's not my favourite. I wish we'd have got Grand Central instead. And then finally we have Espresso, which I feel like I want to highlight. If you are looking on the website pictures are really not accurate for this colour. Based off the website pictures, I thought it was going to be like mocha. It's not. It's significantly darker and richer. Nowhere near as warm as, for example, your rich browns and your Manhattans. I really like this brown in my opinion. I feel like this is the dark brown I've wanted every other dark brown that they've done to be. I really like this shade. I think it's stunning in terms of marl and heathering. There isn't really any on it whatsoever, but I feel like this straddles between being cool and warm perfectly. Like, it's not too warm, it's not too cool, it's just a really nice deep brown shade, and I have no notes. It looks like it might be the same as chocolate, but like I said, it's not. It's actually a little bit lighter, a little bit richer and a little bit warmer by comparison. It's like chocolate and Brawl or Cashmere in Tenacity, because that's a little bit warmer, had a baby in my opinion. This is the best dark brown that they've done in my opinion, and I love it. Again, I just wish that they'd given these neutrals more of a fair shot. Like I said, this only really goes with Sahara out of this drop, and Sahara only really goes with this out of this drop. Kind of like this together, other than Emerald, because obviously you can do that and you can be giving Tree. They're a little bit difficult to pair. And here I'm going to pop in my lookbook because it's stand on business around here. When I say you don't need to buy a matching set, you really don't. So I'm going to show you these new colours paired with some of my favourite old colours so that you can see maybe what you've already got in your wardrobe, or if you've got a similar colour from another brand, what you might want to pair it with, so you don't feel like on launch day, shit, I need a whole new set. You don't. Let's pause, go through the activewear wardrobe and see what we can pair it with, okay? Starting off with Neon Coral, I absolutely love this with Neptune. It might be one of my favourite colour combos ever. With Aurora, I just think this is giving candy and I absolutely love it. And then I put it with Heat. I really like this together. I feel like I should wear colour more because I feel like it makes my skin pop. Then Ultraviolet, I also really like that with Heat. I also really like it with Aurora. I feel like this launch and last launch pair quite well together. And then I also put it with Tea Rose for more of like a toned down look. Moving on to Acai Berry, again with Tea Rose to tone it down a little bit more with it being brighter. I actually don't love it with Purple Noir, so in case you were curious, I don't love this. Then with Grove, I think this is really pretty. Moving on, we've got Espresso with Grove. I always love brown and green together. I just think it's giving treat and it looks fantastic. Then with Berry, it's giving cherry. I really like dark browns with dark pinks and purples. And then with Grand Central for like a full neutral look. Then obviously we've got Sahara with Grand Central. Not the exact same, but they do go okay together. Then with Brawl, and then I also put it with Rose from the last drop, and I think this is a really cute way of getting colour in with it. Let's get into pump. There is going to be so much groundwork to cover because I want to make sure I give you guys everything I possibly can in this video, so timestamps will be below if you want to skip around. First thing I'm going to do is actually try these on for you with annotations on the short and legging, because it's so hard to get all the textures to show up properly, and also off body you don't really get a good grasp of where the textures are or how they sit or how they work. So I'm going to insert those clips now for both the shorts and the leggings. Okay, so details wise, it's easier to do the doodle. So you've got that that 3-tier Amplify waistband. It does sit lower. The rise measured off body, for reference, I'm wearing a size medium right now, and the rise on this measured off body is 8 inches, but on a size small it's 7.5. So it's around an inch to an inch and a half lower than Revive or Contour in terms of your actual like off body measurement. On body, I would say these fit slightly lower than Revive and much lower than Contour, and they also don't have as much vertical stretch when it comes to being able to pull them up. All right, this feels very coochie mama. This section here is shorter, so what that means is you basically do get the bottom of the waistband ends here where this line is, and I am actually getting a little bit more lower stomach compression here. So this is where it ends. Hopefully this comes out in the wash, by the way, because if not, you're welcome. The things we do for science. I'm really in my Bill Nye Science Guy era. Lower compression, medium compression, high compression to really and shape you like that. And it's the Amplify waistband, not the Revive one, so it has a decent amount of stretch this way, and it's not as hard to get on as Revive in terms of the waistband. Legs a different story, but waistband has a decent amount of stretch, but I would say the compression on it is definitely similar to Contour for me. Even in a medium, as you can see, I don't have any gapping on it whatsoever. Then you actually have a different fabric in the front, and I'm going to pop a macro lens on of how normal Amplify fabric is versus this, so hopefully you can see. It's very similar in terms of the texture to the crotch region of Lazuli label Scrunch Sculpt, or if you have DFYNE, it's not the same in terms of the sort of tightness and density, but it is the same in terms of it has that sort of waffle almost texture and feel. It's not smooth like normal Amplify is. This is a rougher fabric. It's less slick. It's going to be less pill prone in the front here as a direct result of that, and it's a little bit tighter and a little bit thicker and a little bit snugger. It's definitely not got as much stretch. Same fabric blend, but the wash on it and the finish on it is very different in the front panel, and also basically from here onwards, that is where this fabric is. So from where this line ends here, all the sort of waffle feeling fabric, not as smooth or silky as standard Amplify. That has its drawbacks and its pros, but it will make this region and the leg a lot more durable and a lot less pill prone. And then you have the A logo, which this is getting removed for future drop. No, it's controversial. A lot of people don't like it. From the 3rd drop of pump onwards, this is getting removed. Something to note is it's also kind of in its own little box, which honestly makes it stand out even more, which I really don't love. I don't love this personally. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but I usually hate a sticker logo because they're not durable and they come off. For once, W for the lack of durability in the logo, because it means it probably will come off. Be aware of the fact you will be left with that kind of box even if the logo is not there anymore. So now we're turning to the side, and here I've outlined the mesh panel for you guys. So on normal Amplify, the mesh panel is more straight here at the front, curves more this way, whereas with Pump it actually curves towards the front. It doesn't contour the glutes well at all in my opinion because of that. It kind of cuts them off in a really strange way in my opinion actually, which I don't love. I don't mind this around the front. I actually like this shaping around the front, but I wish this had been brought out to give a bit more glute curve, because I don't know, tell me if I'm wrong, but I just feel like this looks slightly off from the side. It does mean that from this angle and from the front you do sort of see that mesh panel a little bit more than you do your standard Amplify. And also this mesh panel, they say it's the same as normal Amplify, but in my experience this is actually thicker, and it actually shows sweat weirdly a lot more than the normal Amplify mesh panel did. Just yeah, it's thicker, and in my opinion it's going to be a bit more durable as well. It's really hard to sort of poke your nail through this one. It is thicker and it doesn't have as much stretch either to it. That comes down to, you can see here, it comes down to a similar point as Amplify, sort of below knee height. So then we're moving around to the back. So this fabric here is not the same as this. This fabric here is your standard Amplify fabric. It does have stretch, but I would say on most colours, and I'll get into that later in the video, definitely more reminiscent of the Berry, Blade, Rain, December drop of Amplify, where it was a bit stiff and a bit sturdier. It has stretch to it, but it's not quite as stretchy in most of the colours, especially the more vibrant colours, as standard Amplify fabric is, which can cause issues in itself, which again I'll get onto, but I'm just trying to go over details. But this fabric here, different texture to this. Now I understand that, because if you put this here it would completely pancake your glutes and it wouldn't work at all, but this is going to be a lot less pill proof per se than the front, which is ironic because I feel like we mostly get pilling on the bum from sitting on the floor in the gym. So there there is that to consider, but it's not as fluffy feeling on most of the colours as contour is. So for most colours you shouldn't get as much pilling, but this is going to be a lot less pill prone than the butt portion. This is that smooth amplify fabric, again with the macro lens. This is that textured, new, thicker waffle, rougher texture, smoother texture on the glute, because you need that. Again, like I said, if you put this here, it would just completely pancake you and it wouldn't work. Then you come down into the glute contour, which sort of sits under here. So on the leggings, this sits a lot better than me. I'll show you the shorts in a second. It's basically meant to curve around the side. I've drawn exactly where it sits. Now this is going to massively depend on your anatomy. If you have longer glutes, if you have shorter glutes, where this is going to hit you. I would say I just have normal glute, and this is how the leggings hit on me. So they actually hit me in a really good spot, and I don't find that it's actually cutting off my glutes much. It hits me in a good spot, but this is basically denser, thicker fabric to give a little bit of a lift to this thinner, stretchier fabric in the glute. Then have a what they are calling transitional panel here. This is where it's not quite as tight, so it transitions from this thicker, snugger fabric into a slightly less snug fabric to then go into the leg. Given reasonings for this, but I have seen with Bailey, for example, and people who just have much more size on their legs, it seems to be creating a weird bulge here as a result, because it has this sort of, it's not loose, but it's looser than it is here. On me, I personally don't have a problem with it, and I don't really actually even notice it much, but it is there. And then the rest of the leg, all the way down the back to the bottom, these are a 25-inch inseam. Ankle, just for reference, I do find that these do hit slightly shorter than standard amplify, just because it is a thicker fabric that doesn't have quite as much stretch or give through the leg, but that fabric runs all the way down the back of the leg from this point onwards, and it's all the way around the front. Okay, now let's get into the scrunch. The scrunch is a four-way DFYNE basically looking scrunch. That's the only way I can describe it. People say that these scrunches are basically non-scrunches, but in my opinion they are more visible because they are chunkier and they are wider. There are some details just to get into. So you've obviously got the tapering at the top here, hopefully you can see with the pen. You've got that thicker scrunch in the middle, and then you've actually got a little bit of a lift on the inner glue under here. So the scrunch basically runs slightly under the inner portion of the glute to give you a tiny little bit of a lift. I don't think it does anything crazy. If anything, I just think it can make the gusset region look quite strange from the back. Personally, I don't really think it's doing that much. What they say it's there for, they say it's an hourglass scrunch and it's meant to lift from the inner glue. I don't find it doing much other than just making things look a little bit strange back here side on, but those are all the details for the leggings. So these are the pump shorts. These are a 5-inch inseam. I don't know if you guys can tell, even though those are a medium, I'll show you a size small in the leggings further on in the haul, but I do actually find the shorts sit a little bit lower on me. Leggings do, in my experience with this drop. Details wise, again, I can be a little bit quicker here. You've got that 3-tier waistband. It's just sitting a little bit lower. On the shorts for me, it doesn't measure any differently. It just sits lower. I don't know why. And I have a longer torso. This is where it hits me. I would say these are going to be mid to high rise for most people. You've got the logo again. The mesh panel is the exact same on the shorts as it is on the leggings. So again, I just don't love how this looks. I really like it from this angle and I like it from the front, but I just wish it curved more here. Obviously it's exaggerated because I've drawn the white lines, but this to me looks off. You will also find with this waistband, it dips a little in the middle around the front, and it also dips a little in the middle around the back. Then again, you've got this fabric here. Now there are definitely differences between colours. In my experience, an emerald runs snug. So I don't know if you can tell, but this does not have as much stretch in this region, which therefore makes the sort of effectiveness of this push-up not as great, purely because your glutes are kind of being a little bit compressed by this fabric, and it also makes it really hard to situate the scrunch properly. And on those tighter colours, you feel scrunch when you squat, just to let you know. But then if you come to the side here, then you've got the glute compression here. I don't know if you can tell, but I feel like personally with the shorts, because I sort of have to go like this to get the scrunch to sort of sit right up my bum, I find that the compression actually sits a little high on me. Again, it's going to depend on your glute length and how you're built, but on me this cuts me off in the same way that DFYNE Impact cuts me off. Leggings, the pocket, I don't know what it is, they measure the same, but the pocket on the leggings just sits a little bit better for me. But again, you've got that thicker, denser fabric fabric here to give you that little push up, which runs all the way around, and you can tell from the back as well, it's sort of sitting on my bum cheek. And then you've got a little bit of that transition fabric here, but to be honest, not really transition on the shorts, because then it just goes into the bottom band, and this bottom band is like normal amplify in terms of the thickness. It's not as thick as contour, which is a shame in my opinion, because I feel like this adds to the flimsiness with it being a little bit of a thinner band, because they do roll in my experience, and contour does too, but I just feel like with the stiffness and rigidity of this fabric, these would have rolled a lot less if this bottom band was just a little bit thicker. I think this could have been the same as contour. And then again from the back, you've got that hourglass scrunch, so it sort of goes down here and it sort of shapes around here. Hopefully you guys can see, to give you that like inner glute lift, which again, I honestly don't really feel does much. I think it just makes it quite uncomfortable. But hopefully you guys can see that this scrunch is not stretchy. It doesn't have stretch like ALPHALETE scrunches usually do. It's really stiff and really rigid, so when you squat, it doesn't move with you that well, and you are going to feel it, especially in those tighter woven colours. It's more visible in my opinion than the amplify scrunch. I wish they'd just done the normal amplify scrunch on this. The revive scrunch, which you'll see in this video, I think actually sits best on me. I don't really get how people say this is a non-scrunch scrunch. It looks like a scrunch, it quacks like a scrunch. It's a fucking scrunch. And like I said, it's just really hard to get it situated on these tighter colours. On the lighter colours, it's a little bit easier, but on the tighter ones, really difficult that it's situated right. And because you have to do a lot of tugging, then end up with, in my opinion, a really visible gusset from the back. So that's something to be aware of as well. I did see that Catherine measured hers and hers are 4.5. All of mine are 5 inches. So the 5-inch inseam remains for me. But I do find that these, even though they look like they're not doing it much on body, I do find that these actually measure a little bit longer at the front than they do the back. I think just because of all these textures, they're hiking at the back quite a lot. I actually find these do fit me more like a 4-inch around the back. I definitely don't get as much length out of these as I do with contour, because they're not as stretchy and they're a lot tighter on the leg around here in certain colours. In the white and the espresso and the ultraviolet, I don't find that fabric to fit as tight, but on these, the compression is definitely compression in, and I just don't get as much length out of them as a result, and I can really feel it in certain colours. But these are the shorts, and those are the details. Also with pump, all of the tags are on the inside like this, so it's like contour. There's no tags floating around anywhere. It's all printed in like contour was on the last drop, which I love. So yeah, those are the details of both the short and the legging. The legging 25-inch inseam, just to reiterate, the short 5-inch inseam. Some people are getting them in 4.5s. I've seen some people getting 5.5. Mine are all 5, but I will say, like I said, they do fit more a shorter inseam because of the density and thickness of the fabric on pump. You do lose a little bit of length because of that, and you really can't stretch them down your legs quite as much. I'm just going to give you guys a quick show of how the details look off body so that you guys can see. So obviously you've got the waistband in the front, you've got the sticker logo here, and it is of that little square, which obviously I will have spoken to you guys about. This is how they look from the back off body, so you can see with any glute compression, whether it's Lazuli, DFYNE, Gymshark, whatever brand you've got, they have these sort of pockets because it's obviously got a little bit more room here as opposed to the leg, which is obviously denser and tighter to give you that sort of compressed and lifted look. But I just think it's a much easier way to show you guys the details on body, because off body you really can't see all those different textures and what's really going on with them. In terms of any differences between the short and legging, fine for whatever reason. I don't know why, I don't know how. They measure the same, there's no issue with that. I'm getting less rise from the shorts than I am from the legging. They are definitely both, regardless, mid to high rise. It will just depend on your torso. Similar to me, it's going to hit you about mid rise, and if you are on the shorter side, it might actually be more of a high rise on you. And then obviously the only other real difference between the shorts and the leggings is because the leggings are longer, you have more of that transitional panel on the leggings than you do with the shorts. So if you are worried about that sort of bulging from where it goes tight to being a little bit looser in terms of it making any fat that you store on the back of your legs or anything like like that bulge out a little bit more. You might get on better with the shorts because it has slither of that transitional piece, like a tiny little bit, before it just goes into the bottom band of the shorts, and that rolls up quite a lot with wear anyway. Fabric, the fabric blend of these is the same seamless fabric blend as all seamless from ALPHALETE. It's all got the same fabric on it, and I'm going to pop it here. However, it's different, it's not the same. So like I've gone over with the details, the front of the short and the legging, and for the legging, the majority of the back of the legging, like the glute compression onwards, you've got that rougher fabric. This is not like Amplify. If you ever had the R6 leggings, that more waffly feel fabric like that, I would say it has a little bit more stretch to it and a little bit more give to it than that, but it's most comparable to that fabric in terms of ALPHALETE seamless. Nothing like Contour, it's nothing like Amplify. That's more silky, more brushed, more smooth. The front of the shorts and leggings and the back of the leggings, like the majority of the leg of the leggings, same fabric, but it's got a different wash on it, so it's got more of a waffle texture. It's more rough. I'll pop it here and here so that you guys can see the difference. It's not the same texture. You're gonna know you don't get as much stretch through the front, so if you're worried about rise being able to be too stretchy and it's got too much vertical stretch, you're not going to get that with pump because you can't. It's going to be a lot less pill prone. Barbells brushing against the knees, a lot less pill prone. One thing to note, if you are in a warmer climate, it's a lot warmer than Amplify and Contour. Despite Contour having that fluffy feel, this fabric is definitely a lot warmer. It's denser, so I would maybe stay away from the leggings if that's something that concerns you or worries you, because it is thicker, but it's going to be a lot more durable through the front portion and through the leg as a result of that, and it's overall going to be a lot more sturdy. Now, with that being said, in terms of the fabric on the glute, that's actually totally different to the front. It's not the same fabric. I watched ALPHALETE's video where they labeled the legging. I found it really confusing because the fabric on the leg, they've labeled it as the same on the glute, and I get it's the same fabric blend, but the texture is completely different. That is your typical Amplify smooth fabric, and there are differences between colours, which I'm going to go on to in a second. So with it being that, it's not going to be as pill proof as the front of the legging. It's not going to be as sturdy as the front of the legging, which it needs, because if you put that fabric on the glute, it's going to completely compress it. Mine have pilled yet, but I am concerned that they may be prone to pilling in that region just because it feels like standard Amplify fabric to me. The under glute compression isn't waffle like in texture. It's basically just a denser version of the fabric that's on the butt. So I find it does have a smooth texture to it, which I personally really like because it makes the glute compression and lift panel not as obvious, because you don't have such a difference in texture. It looks a lot more cohesive in my opinion and a lot less stark because of that. So I'm glad it's not that fabric on the under glute compression, even though yes, it would give more lift. It's a lot more obvious looking, and that's just not personally to my taste. So I'm glad they didn't put that fabric there. Because of that, you're not going to get as much lift as you will maybe with your DFYNE, because that has that fabric all the way around and right under the glute, where it's much more rigid. Don't have that with pump. It's basically a continuation of the butt fabric, more dense and tighter woven, basically to give you that lift effect, and then that transitional piece under that transitions into that sort of waffly feeling texture. Basically it for fabric charts. Same fabric blend, but these do not feel the same. You are in the market for something a bit sturdier feeling than Amplify, worried about pilling with barbells and stuff, this is going to be a better option for you. If you are someone who really values thinness, stretch, softness, that sort of stuff, you might not like pump so much. It will majorly boil down to your personal preference. There are differences between colours, and I've spoken to Catherine about this and she had the exact same experience. I'm comfortable with hedging bets. I also saw that Bailey said her white was super stretchy as well in comparison. So there are differences between colours. White, espresso for me, and also ultraviolet have a lot more stretch. So the glute compression doesn't feel as snug, but also the glute region doesn't feel as snug. So that butt pouch, the butt pocket, don't feel as snug. So I find in general, those colours, especially in the shorts, fit a lot better because you're able to get a lot more of that lift whilst also giving your glutes the space to breathe. And it also helps the scrunch sit a lot better because you're able to get it into your glutes more because the fabric isn't so like taut over your ass cheeks basically. They don't fit bigger, they measure the same, but the fabric on those in my experience is softer, it's stretchier. The other colours, Palace Blue, Acai Berry, Black and Emerald, and also Sahara as well, strangely enough. I don't know why that's a thing for it. I find run a lot tighter, and it's not a small difference in my experience. I really struggle to get the scrunch to sit right in those colours because the fabric over the butt feels a lot thicker and denser, nowhere near as stretchy as the other colours in my experience that I've just spoken about. And also the glute contour especially, you're really going to notice it on the short, a lot snugger. So if you are conscious of, like I said, the sort of banana roll effect where that pocket of fat sort of sits between the bottom band and the bottom of your glute, you get that a lot more in those colours, and you also get a lot more digging in and uncomfortability in the thigh in those colours as well. Having said that, if you are someone who really values like a strong lift and you really want compression through the leg, I would go with those more vibrant colours because those fit significantly tighter. I noticed in the leggings as well, my medium black and my medium Palace blue fit tighter in terms of the compression. I feel it more than I do in the size small espresso. I also found with the size small espresso, the glute region is clearly a lot more stretchy because the scrunch ends up looking a lot longer than it does on the mediums, and I just think that's because that butt pocket is able to be stretched out more. I'm able to get them to sit a little bit higher as well as a result. Talking about fabric, I just wanted to highlight that because I do find that you get two very different pump experiences between those colours. For the colours that are sort of stretchier and don't have as much compression, I would definitely say to just stay true to size. But for the more vibrant saturated colours, stay true to size if you want that really like tight snug fit and that's what you're in the market for and you're not worried about trying to get the scrunch to sit in your glutes. But if you don't want compression, you're concerned about not being able to get the scrunch to sit right, or you are between sizes, I would highly recommend in those more vibrant colours that you take a size up because otherwise you might have problems with it. Personally, I wouldn't recommend that you size down in pump. I think if you size down, especially given that most of the colours in my experience don't have a ton of stretch, that scrunch is not going to sit right. And even in my true to size like emerald, Cyberry for example with the shorts, I really feel the scrunch when I'm squatting because of how like tight it's pulled around my glutes. With that being said, with us talking about squats, let's go over squat tests here.
Hi guys, it's editing me and I've just realised I didn't even intro our new squat test. We've got the fudge test. The design team sent me a package of samples and they put some fudge stickers in there. They weren't intended to be used for this, but I just thought, how can we get our fluffy king incorporated into the reviews? So I've done a fudge sticker test and that's what we're doing. So on the left hand side you've got nude underwear and on the right hand side you have got the sticker test.
So white and Sahara are the worst. White and Sahara are not stand-up proof, and I do find you can actually see in those colours it gives more define. It looks more obvious in terms of the compression legging because there is a lot of sheerness on the butt compared to the panel underneath, so you can really tell what you've got on in those colours. They're not stand-up proof and they're not squat proof either. If you do not want a sheer short, especially with white, please avoid it. I spoke about this in my last video, and then my most sold colours were rose and canary yellow, which were totally see-through. I know that people will be shocked that they've done white. I know that some people will be like, what, why would they even release that? It'll probably still sell out. Guys, there is so much power in your pound, and as long as these light sheer colours continue to sell out, there is no reason for brands to stop releasing them, or at least do something with those lighter colours to make them a tiny bit more squat proof. With pump, with those lighter colours, because you've got more density in the fabric around the front isn't actually horrific, but you can still see nude underwear, but the back is completely see-through. If you have glute tattoos, I would ignore those two colours because I just don't think they're going to work out for you. In terms of all the other colours, I actually find them all pretty decent. I would wear all of those with a nude thong. The black is really dense in my opinion, especially on the glute region. Like I said, sheerness from the front, it's not something you need to be as concerned with pump because it has that thicker, denser fabric around the front. It's the glute pockets, but I actually find all the other colours perfectly comfortable and palatable. Train legs in with nude underwear. I would do it with all the other colours. Why do it at your own risk? It's very sheer. The only saving grace in not exposing your actual arse crack and anus is that thick ass scrunch, because that's actually pretty dense, so it covers you quite well in that regard, because you probably will need to go commando in the white. Hey, the scrunch has got the ass crack covered. Okay, your booty hole will not be seen in the gym. Avoid those two if sheerness concerns you. Again, I know that some people don't care and I don't want to bully or tease or bash those people. I don't want to sugarcoat it either. The white in particular is completely see-through on the glute. And also if you have cellulite and stuff on your glutes that you're conscious of, I would also probably skip on the white and Sahara because you're going to see it a lot more. And if you've got glute tattoos, forget it. I just want to show you guys the difference in texture between the front in terms of a punch through test for thickness. So this is the front of pump in Sahara, glute pocket of pump in Sahara. So it's not the same texture and it's a lot thinner. We'll do the butt pocket on all colours for you just so that you can see. This is the white punch through test. This is espresso's punch through test, is emerald's punch through test, acai berry punch through test, ultraviolet punch through test, and Palace blue punch through test. And I feel like you can see on these which are the thinner colours as well, and it's definitely in my experience white, espresso and ultraviolet. Okay, in terms of camel toe, I actually don't find pump to be too bad. It's no worse than amplify. Generally, I actually find it to be a little bit better just because it has that thicker fabric in the front. It's not as easy for it to mold to you. I do find the camel toe to not be too bad. But on the topic of like the nether regions, like I have just said with the squats and stuff, you do feel the scrunch a lot in those tighter colours. White, espresso and ultraviolet for me, I don't feel the scrunch when I'm moving around, but the other colours I really feel it, and I feel like I can feel it pulling when I'm squatting. So if you are sensitive in the booty hole, maybe not the bottom for you unless you're going to go for white, espresso or ultraviolet. Whilst we're on the topic of ass cracks and assholes, let's talk about the pump scrunch and, you know, come to terms with it a little better. Okay, so this is how the scrunch looks, and then you have this thicker portion here, 2 bits either side, which basically seems to be what all the brands who have this scrunch do. DFYNE does it as well. But then the difference with ALPHALETES is they continue the scrunch a little bit to sort of inner glute, because this has like no give to it whatsoever. Like if I show you guys, the scrunch is stiff. It doesn't really stretch much or have much movability to it, which means obviously with it being that denser scrunch and that thicker fabric, it has the opportunity to here sort of curve under butt a little bit and give you a little bit of like an inner glute lift. I don't find that it does anything crazy. Like I said, if anything, especially on the leggings, I feel like it just makes things look a little bit weird. It's almost like too much patting of the cheeks at the bottom. I don't know how to explain it. It's a little bit comfortable in the nether region. In terms of how this measures, the smalls are 3-inch sort of glute seam space and the mediums are 3.5. So if you size up, you get more room. If you size down, you get less. In order to like compare that to other ALPHALETE scrunches, it's pretty much the same. As Contour, as Revive, they're all similar. In terms of the length, they all sort of had about 3 to 4 inches depending on the colour, size, whatever. Much thicker. The purpose of this is it's not meant to be a scrunch, it's meant to just separate the glutes, but I feel like so wide it makes separating the glutes actually even harder, and it's meant to be more subtle, but to me it's more obvious. I don't know who started the propaganda that this is more subtle. In my opinion, it is not, and it actually makes it harder to get it to fit right. When I first put these on, I could not get the scrunch to sit in between my glutes whatsoever. With movement, it did go in a little bit better, but it's still very much more noticeable when you are in the gym and when you are training, if that makes sense. You're gonna feel it a little bit more. It is something that with sweat and with movement, it does work its way in there a little bit better, but on those more vibrant colors, it's really difficult to get it worked in there. And I don't find that with training, those colors stretch out too much either. But with the lighter colors and the white and stuff, when you put them on, you might be like, whoa, what the fuck? Move around a bit, squat into them, try and pull the fabric from the sides, and it will sit in a little better. But in my opinion, it's still more obvious than, for example, an Amplify scrunch or a Revive scrunch. Just to show you guys for comparison, this is a standard Amplify or Contour or Revive scrunch. They're all the same, and you can see how much stretch the scrunch has to it. Now that obviously has its pros and cons, because it can end up being super high up your lower back as a result of that. It can be too stretchy, but there is definitely a middle ground because the pump has very little stretch to it in comparison. like in comparison to Amplify, it's a very, very, very stiff scrunch. So it's stiffer, it's not as thin, it's much wider, more noticeable in my opinion, and it doesn't have that sort of ruched look to it. And in my opinion, it's a lot more invasive in terms of feel. It also continues under those inner glute, more this way shaped, whereas Amplify, Revive, etc., it's more this way. Now, in terms of the scrunch traveling up your lower back, because we all know we've spoken about making yourself look like a long batty gal on this channel for a while, I do find that with the espresso leggings, I think because I just find the fabric on the small espresso leggings so stretchy, and it's stretchier on the shorts as well, but the leggings are definitely worse for it. I do find that it just travels its way up my lower back. Like I'll show you my espresso small shorts and my espresso small leggings. The scrunch just stretches out so much more on them. It's definitely an anomaly, but it is something I want to mention. If you are conscious of that, I do find the espresso leggings scrunch just really... She's traveling, she's making her way up there, over yonder to my shoulders. In terms of rolling for the shorts, these do roll, and if you size up, I don't find it makes the rolling any less prominent. I think rolling at this point is more to do with leg shape, because people told me that DFYNE doesn't roll. It rolls on me. I think it's more to do with how your legs are shaped. I'm definitely prone to rolling, but if you were someone who found that Revive didn't roll on you because you found they hit longer, these will roll, because these, despite the fact they're both a 5-inch inseam, there's a lot of length with this because of the stiffness of the fabric. It's stiffer in terms of the leg region in particular, and obviously you've got all that compression, so you lose quite a bit of length, and they do roll. And I will say the rolling experience on those more vibrant colours, your emerald, Alice blue, acai berry, and even Sahara, the rolling experience is quite intense on those colours because it's already so tight on the thigh, so it really bulges out in quite an uncomfortable way when it does roll. Again, I would advise, if you are conscious of that, you might want to try a size up. Not that it's going to stop it rolling, it just might be a lot more comfortable. In terms of sweat, these do show sweat. Not as much in the front because it's like a dense fabric and it's quite hard for the sweat to get through. But I find in a weird way, I think maybe because it's so dense there and the sweat can't get through there, these were showing sweat a lot more than normal Amplify does for me on my glutes, and also on the mesh panel. I'll pop in a picture here so that you guys can see. I do find that these are not sweat proof. They do dry quite quickly in my experience. Now, before I go into comparisons, in terms of sizing, like I mentioned, these are your sort of stretchier looking colours, feeling colours, not as much compression under the glute as a result, more room in the glute pocket as a result, because you are able to sort of get that effect. And these are the tighter colours, tighter in terms of around the thigh, around the glute compression, tighter in terms of the butt portion as well. I feel like there's two different pieces of sizing advice. For these colours, you stay true to size. I wouldn't size down even though they are stretchier, even if you really like a lift, just because I feel like if you size down, you're going to run into issues, even with the stretchier colours. With the scrunch, it's going to be really hard to situate it properly for yourself. So with those colours, I would stay true to size, and I would only be going down if you are between sizes. The rest of the colours, stay true to size if you want that high compression fit, high compression in the waist, high compression through the leg. You want that more lift, but it is also going to compress your glutes a little bit as well, because those colours in my experience are thicker in the glute region. Sort of a trade-off, because it's thicker in the glute region, which makes it harder for your glutes to sort of be able to pop out and be lifted as much. You're also getting more lift because they're going to fit tighter around the glute compression regardless. So in those colours, if you want that, stay true to size. If you don't want compression, size up. If you're confused or concerned about the glute pockets not having enough room, size up. And if you are between sizes in those colours, I would also size up. It's going to completely depend how you want them to fit, but it does also depend between colours in my experience for this drop. So I just wanted to be as in-depth as possible with that because I don't want to lead anyone astray. Compression for the waist is very similar to contour, so if you're sizing for waist, go with the same size that you did for contour. Just be mindful, the legs on most of the colours are a lot thicker and a lot denser and a lot tighter than contour is. In terms of my own personal sizing preference, small versus medium for the shorts, it does depend on colours like I've gone over, so it makes sizing honestly really annoying to talk about, but I will give you that list here of the like lighter colours, stretchier colours, more comfy colours, and then the tighter colours, the more dense colours. You guys have that list. But in terms of the shorts, small or medium, I can honestly do both. The only thing is, if you are going to size up in pump, you do need to be aware of the fact that you're not going to get as much glute compression. But I can do small or medium. Even in the vibrant colours, that the more saturated colours, can get away with a size small. It's just the scrunch is really, she's tugging on on there, okay? She's tugging on there. But I can fit into them, do get a lot more lift in them. So there's a bit of a trade-off. It depends what's more important to you. To give you a visual of small versus medium in the leggings, again, I feel like this is really annoying because actually my small espresso was so much softer and stretchier. My medium black or my medium Palace blue, I actually find I get more lift blue and the black despite the fact that they're a size up. So I think it really depends on the colours, but in terms of the leggings, I would say generally, other than espresso, I think I prefer a medium, because if I'd have got the blue and the black legging in a small, I don't think I would have been able to get them on. And with the leggings as well, I wouldn't even say that you're trading off on compression, because blue and black were actually more compressive under the glute for me than the size small espresso. So that's something to keep in mind. I'm sorry that it feels like the sizing advice is kind of all over the place, but it kind of is all over the place because the difference between colours is kind of all over the place. But basically the bottom line is I can do a small or a medium. I can do a small or a medium in the shorts, and I can do a small or a medium in the leggings. The small brown had have come in as tight as the medium blue leggings, but obviously in a size small. I don't think I would have been able to get them on. I think that's something worth noting. Whereas the shorts, even in the tighter colours, I can get them on. Be aware, if you're gonna size down, which I wouldn't advise, to be honest, anyone do, unless you are between and it's on those stretchier colours, you're gonna run into issues with the butt pockets and the scrunch. And if you size up and you're someone that loves compression, which means you probably wouldn't size up anyway, you might not get the compression level that you like. I hate not being able to be helpful. When colours fit differently, it stresses me out so much because I'm like, I'm tying myself up in knots in here thinking about sizing. So hopefully that's answered a lot of your questions, because we've been talking pump for about an hour now. I wanted to run you guys through some comparisons. So first of all, like, we can't not compare this to other brands. It's ALPHALETE's first glute compression. You guys, if you are in the market for this, you might have also been in the market for things like DFYNE, Gymshark, lazuli. So I'm going to run you through those really quickly. So first up, obviously we've got DFYNE. So the difference is here. I'm going to go from the waistband down. ALPHALETE's waistband, and I'm not just saying this because I work with them, in my opinion, it's better quality. The retention on DFYNE's waistband is awful. I've had them for over a year. I've trained in them multiple times. The waistband really stretches out and it dips down a lot. Now this waistband does dip down, but not as much as DFYNE's does. So the waistbands are very different. ALPHALETE's is more compressive and it's also a little bit higher rise. They both measure in a size small, 7.5 inches, but DFYNE's fabric is much tougher than ALPHALETE's, so it doesn't have as much stretch to it. So they end up sitting on body, I would say about half an inch to 0.75 inches lower. DFYNE low to mid rise depending on torso. ALPHALETE's pump mid to high rise depending on torso. In terms of that fabric at the front, ALPHALETE have definitely taken something from DFYNE in terms of that rougher texture. It does remind me of it, but ALPHALETE's is softer and it does have more stretch to it. DFYNE's is thicker and denser and a lot tighter. Doesn't really have any give to it whatsoever. Moving down, bottom band, DFYNE's is thicker, and again they measure the same in terms of the leg opening. I believe it's about 7.5 inches, but DFYNE's has very little stretch to it. So even in those tighter colours for pump, the leg is still not as tight as DFYNE's. It's much tighter. It's all about the give. They measure similarly. DFYNE is just much stiffer of a fabric. DFYNE's from the side curves, in my opinion, nicer around the glutes because it doesn't go forward, it goes backwards, and it sort of just continues with that glute compression under. There's not a ton of different textures with DFYNE. It's mainly just using that thicker, denser fabric at the front to give you a lift around the back as well, and by curving it around. Whereas with ALPHALETE, you've got the mesh panel that sort of curves to the front. Like I said, I wish it curved to the back because I do think it's more flattering. And in terms of that glute compression, again, DFYNE's, you've got that waffle-like texture. So to the eye, it's more obvious. It looks more stark. It's not as seamless looking, but it is also tighter. It does lift the glutes more. ALPHALETE, you've obviously got those two sort of transitional fabrics, the glute compression and then the little transitional panel underneath, whereas DFYNE, you've just got that straight up compression to lift the glute. ALPHALETE's is a smoother texture, so to the eye it doesn't look as obvious. It's not as different in texture, so in my opinion it gives more of a subtle lift, but it also gives more of a subtle lift because it's not as densely woven, it's not as tight, and it's not as lifting. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. For me personally, DFYNE is too much. I know some people love it and I love it for the people that love it. I'm letting you know, if you are a DFYNE warrior until you die and you love that level of compression, ALPHALETE's is not as lifting, more subtle lift, and I much prefer how it looks to the eye in terms of it not being such a different texture. But that will come down to individual preference. It's also worth noting that with the white and the Sahara colour on pump, it is quite obvious that it's a compression legging. Waistband wise, obviously DFYNE's is sewn on, whereas ALPHALETE's is more seamless. I personally do prefer how ALPHALETE's looks because I feel like it's just a cleaner looking finish. And then coming into that scrunch at the back, ALPHALETE's doesn't have like a V-seam in terms of a sewn on seam, whereas DFYNE's does, which I do think might actually help it to sit in the glutes a little bit better with it being that thicker, wider scrunch. I still find that DFYNE's, you can still see it, and I still struggle to get that sort of scrunch my glute. It's just very, very, very wide and very stiff, whereas ALPHALETE's approach is more sort of tapering through texture, not actually having a specific V-seam on the bottom. In terms of the scrunch itself, they're pretty similar, to be honest. The only difference is ALPHALETE's has a smooth texture either side as a sort of transition, whereas with DFYNE's, it's got same texture either side, it's just thinner. And obviously with ALPHALETE's as well, it's got the hourglass scrunch, so it gives you a little bit of an inner glute lift, or it's meant to at least, whereas DFYNE's just comes straight down and then it fits into the glute compression that goes all the way around. ALPHALETE's actually measures a little bit shorter, so I found that with ALPHALETE's glute seam on a size small, and these were both worn at this point, both trained in, they measured 3 inches, whereas DFYNE's was I think 3.5 to 4, I can't remember. And so it is a little bit longer with DFYNE, but DFYNE also has that V-seam, which I feel like hides it better, whereas with ALPHALETE's, because you can pull it up a little bit more and the rise is a little higher, they look very similar in terms of where they hit poking out of the glutes. If anything, DFYNE's does still sit a little lower. And then obviously in terms of that glute fabric, depends on colour. If you are wanting something that's more similar to DFYNE in terms of the stretchiness of that fabric, you will much prefer white, espresso or ultraviolet in my experience. But the other colours are much more different to DFYNE. It's thicker, it's not as stretchy, and it doesn't really allow for as much room for your glutes. The other trade-off to that is it's not as obvious looking because it's not as thin a fabric on those more saturated colours, but it's not as obvious looking, it's a bit more subtle looking. And in terms of the butt pocket space, ALPHALETE's on a size small, you get 5.5 inches from the widest point. So in terms of how much room you've actually got for your glute, 5.5 inches. DFYNE's, I believe, is 6 inches. I will pop it on the screen just to be clear, but in terms of like, if you find that, for example, DFYNE cuts you off in a weird spot, you may also find that with ALPHALETE's because they're very similar in terms of the glute pocket space, so that's something to be aware of as well. If you were to ask me which one I prefer, and I know that people will think I'm biased because I work for them, but I've had DFYNE, I've tried DFYNE, I've tried the bikers, I've tried the shorts, I've tried some other bits from them. I genuinely prefer ALPHALETE. I prefer the rise of ALPHALETE, I prefer the waistband on ALPHALETE. DFYNE for me, the shorts chafe me so fucking badly. Like, I've never actually chafed from a gym short before. I burn my inner thigh doing, I think I did a 45-minute cardio session of just walking in DFYNE, and I genuinely burnt the inside of my thigh. So for me, that's too much. It's too tight, it's too stiff. And I also find with that fabric, because it's stiffer and even rougher than pump, when I sweat in it, I think it's because I've got sensitive skin, I get itchy. I get really itchy and I find it uncomfortable. So for me personally, I prefer pump. And I would tell you, if I didn't, I will always be honest with my opinion, but I've never been a DFYNE girly anyway. I think if you're a DFYNE girly through and through, you'll probably still be a DFYNE girly. ALPHALETE is not trying to be DFYNE. If people want DFYNE, they can go and buy DFYNE. It's for people, in my opinion, that want something a little bit more subtle in terms of lift and in terms of that sort of pocket look, again barring white and Sahara. Gymshark, so Gymshark have their lift seamless. I will pop them side by side. ALPHALETE's blows Gymshark's out of the water. ALPHALETE's looks so much better. Gymshark's scrunch is atrocious, and I do want to hear it because I understand people have complaints, but if you think ALPHALETE scrunches, rises are bad, Gymshark's so much worse. I'm quite long in the torso, okay? So generally things hit lower on me anyway. That fabric on the Gymshark one is so incredibly stretchy. It's so incredibly thin and moldable. You could honestly stretch that up to your eyeballs if you wanted to. It's incredibly, incredibly, incredibly high-waisted. Gymshark's is super high-waisted. ALPHALETE's is a true mid to high rise. Gymshark's waistband, very flimsy, not as compressive. The fabric, very flimsy, not as compressive. The scrunch, similar concept, but Gymshark's is actually wider and much longer as well. Contour attempt is done more in line form, whereas ALPHALETE's is done more solidly. Gymshark's hits way further up my glutes than even ALPHALETE's does, and it just doesn't fit me right. So these are much better than the Gymshark lift, in my opinion. I actually really don't like the Gymshark lift at all. All I'm gonna say is thank God I realised before I filmed would much more. I filmed my lazuli comparison and then realised my transmitter for my mic actually died, so I apologise for the difference in audio, but that's going to take forever to charge back up, so we're just going to have to roll with it. I don't know why I've still got the mic on because the transmitter's not working. So yeah, to summarise, don't love the Gymshark one on me. I think Pump is way better than that. Now onto lazuli sculpt. Lazuli sculpt I have had for years. They're very, very, very different in my opinion. So first of all, in terms of rise, lazuli is high rise. With Pump it's more mid to high. I would say in terms of the compression of the waistband, despite the fact lazuli isn't 3-tier, I feel like they're similar in compression. So if you were curious on sizing, definitely similar in terms of compression. I would say the fabric around like the front of the leg on lazuli, where it's obviously not ribbed, is actually pretty similar to Pump, to be honest. They've both got a kind of text, like the waffle-ish almost texture to it. It's not the exact same. I would say ALPHALETE's is still a little bit softer, but it's similar. And then in terms of the glute contour, obviously from the side, ALPHALETE curves to the front, which I still think is a really strange choice. Lazuli's curves back, so I do think that that's a lot more flattering. And then in terms of that under glute compression, obviously Lazuli's is like super long, ALPHALETE's is only like 2.5 inches worth of a panel. Lazuli's is bikers or leggings, and it's basically ribbed like a huge chunk under the glutes, which obviously does a lot of lifting, and it's very, 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 very tight in the leg. I would say Lazuli's does give you more of an intense lift. It also gives you more of an obvious lift. For me personally with lazuli, I've owned them years and I've not worn them a ton. Not because I hate them, but just because I feel self-conscious in anything lifting that's that obvious. To me, it makes me quite self-conscious. So for me personally, I'm actually not a huge fan of that, and I don't find myself reaching for them much. And moving on to the scrunch, obviously with ALPHALETE you've got that thicker no scrunch. And then with lazuli you've got, it's much thinner, but it's also much longer. Lazuli scrunch is quite long. I think it's about 5 inches, whereas ALPHALETE's is 3. I do like the fact that they've got a thin scrunch, not a thick scrunch. I just think it's easier to situate in the glutes, and it works on more body types than this thick one does, which just makes it really hard to get it to sit right on everyone in my opinion. So I do actually prefer that about lazuli. But then in terms of the glute pocket, fabric's quite similar in my opinion. They're both on the thicker side generally, bar those few colours that we've already spoken about. But with lazulis you have more space. The pockets are actually a little bit longer, and they just bag out a little bit more as well. So you've got more room for your glutes in those sort of butt pockets. It feels so weird discussing butt pockets, but helps to sort of trade off having that slightly thicker fabric in the glute region. However, with lazuli, I did actually find I get excess fabric on the top of my glute, which I don't get with Pump. So Pump fits better in the top glute region. I don't get excess fabric. Me personally, I prefer the subtlety of Pump, but I do think there are things that they could take from lazulis, like going back to a normal scrunch, which would improve Pump for me and make it better. Okay, other brand comparisons done. Now let's talk ALPHALETE. So let's compare it to Contour. Obviously Contour has contouring effects, but there's no actual lift to it in terms of the glute region. Contour also doesn't actually have a mesh panel on it. It has different detailing, whereas obviously with Pump you've got that mesh panel. I do think the way that the contouring is done on Contour, ironically, is actually a lot nicer than Pump. Again, I just don't love the fact that it curves to the front from the side. I think it looks a little bit odd, and it doesn't really curve to the natural contours quite as well. So in terms of rise, measure on a size small, like I said, about 7.5 inches. Contour measures generally 8 to 9 inches depending on the colour, depending on the drop. The difference here is obviously in the fabric. So Contour has that slippy, soft, high stretch, like she's fluffy, she's thin, she's pantyhose like she's stretchy. High to ultra high on most people, because you can pull that bitch up. You could cover your tits if you're a small person. Whereas with Pump you've got that stiffer, denser fabric. So yes, it measures low, but it also doesn't have the same vertical stretch. So Pump more mid to high, Contour is more high to ultra high. On me it's high, but I know on my short queens it's ultra high. In terms of the bottom band, Contour is thicker. That's like 1 inch. One is about 0.75 inches. So it's more in line with the normal Amplify band, not the Contour band. I wish it had the Contour band, because first of all it's going to add a little bit of extra length to it. Second of all, I just really prefer that thicker bottom band. I feel like that coupled with the compression would do even more for the glutes, especially on the short. Obviously in terms of leggings you've got a lot more different detailing. You've got the waffle print. There's so much more going on in terms of details on the Contour, in my opinion, in terms of to the visual eye, like from a distance you can see a lot more, whereas Pump it's a lot more plain. And then coming into the back, obviously with Pump you've got the actual glute lift, the actual glute compression. Contour, it's just contouring. Scrunch wise they're both about 3 inches on a size small, but with Contour it's a lot stretchier, it's a lot thinner, standard normal scrunch. Whereas with Pump you've got that wider, stiffer scrunch, which is in my opinion a lot harder to situate fluctuate. So they are quite different. I would say in terms of waist compression, I find them really similar. Pump does measure a little bit smaller, but I find that they fit pretty similar. So if you're sizing for your waist, I'd go with the same size that you wear in contour. You're just caring about sizing for your waist. Be aware that through the leg, pump is a lot tighter than contour is. It's a thicker fabric, it's denser, it doesn't have as much stretch to it. And in terms of rolling for the shorts, they both roll just as bad in my experience. In terms of length for the shorts, both are 5-inch inseam, but I do find that with pump, because it's just tighter and the fabric's a lot denser, you don't get as much length out of them. So I do find that they fit a little bit shorter. Moving on, just compare it to normal, standard, good old Amplify. I'm going to use the leggings and I'm going to use the berry drop as an example for this because I've been getting a lot of questions how the rise is compared to the berry drop. So it's definitely closest to that. I would say it's a tiny little bit higher, especially with the espresso leggings. Like I said, they're stretchier and I can pull them up a little bit more. I would say out of all the Amplify drops, it's closest to that. In terms of comparing it to the emerald drop, much lower than the emerald drops. If you like the emerald drop but you wish it was a little bit lower, like the original one with cotton candy, you will really like this drop because it's actually a little bit lower and it doesn't have as much stretch to it either. So obviously you've still got that 3-tier waistband. Amplify, the rise depends on the drop that you bought from, anywhere from mid to ultra high depending on the drop. Pump, it's mid to high, pretty much as standard across the board. Fabric wise, Amplify is obviously that silk, soft, slippery, seamless that everyone has come to know. It's a lot more pill prone through the general leg. Pump, you've got that thicker fabric through a portion of the leg, so it's not going to be as pill prone and it's going to give you a bit more structure. It's obviously got a little bit more texture to it. It's a little bit rougher. Mesh panel, obviously that has changed. So on the pump it curves towards the front. On Amplify it's straight from the front and then curves more around the back. I think the standard Amplify one looked better. Contoured the glutes better. I don't hate that it curves to the front. I just think pump pump needs to go like that, not like that. Instead of this, we want this. And then in terms of obviously the back, Amplify is totally plain, there's no details. This is your most subtle glute enhancing bottom from ALPHALETE. It's incredibly plain. This is basically comparing that base model to like high spec model in terms of glute game. You've got the under glute compression, you've got a totally different scrunch. Amplify, you've got that thin 4-row scrunch. Again, depending on the drop, measures differently. Recently they're about 3 inches, same as pump, but pump is thicker. It's not as stretchy. It's definitely a lot more invasive and you're going to feel it a bit more in my opinion. In terms of the fabric on the bum, obviously Amplify fabric is the same all throughout. Pump has different textures. The pump butt pocket fabric is most comparable to standard Amplify. On those stretchier colours, white, espresso and ultraviolet, it's more like your thin fluffy fabric. On those more vibrant saturated colours, basically the rest of the colours that I've not just mentioned, emerald, acai, palace, Sahara and black, more similar to like berry, blade, rain, those thicker, denser, tougher Amplify fabrics that don't have as much stretch. Both, I believe, have a 25-inch inseam, but pump in terms of the leggings does fit shorter just because it's not as stretchy, so you can't stretch it up and down your leg quite as much as you can standard Amplify. And then finally, Revive. I'm going to talk about the leggings and the shorts, but they're kind of interchangeable. So in terms of the shorts, just inseam really quickly, they both are 5 inches, but Revive, they do sit more like a kind of biker length, and I know that Catherine's measures 6, whereas pump, mine measures 5, but it fits more like 4 in my opinion because of the rigidity of the fabric and all those different textures sort of pulling the back up in particular. You lose quite a bit of length. But then in terms of details, very different waistbands. So Revive, you've obviously got that more rigid waistband and it's not as like densely knitted. It doesn't have as much horizontal stretch. Revive is really hard to get on over your glutes because it doesn't have as much stretch and it's also not as tapered, which makes it sound like it's going to be more compressive, but in my opinion it's actually not. It's less compressive. Revive is a more comfortable waistband. Pump is your standard normal Amplify 3-tier higher compression. In terms of rise, pump is mid to high. I would say Revive is also mid to high, but looking at it, it looks more like a true high rise in comparison, especially on the shorts. And then obviously with Revive, you've got a lot more detail going on in the front. You've got the rib detailing front and all the different sort of panels, whereas with pump, it's much more plain in the front. Fabric wise, again, they are different. So Revive has standard Amplify, but it's a little sturdier, it's a little thicker, performs better in squat tests, and it doesn't pill as much in my experience. Pump, you've got that waffle texture, so it is different to Revive. I would say the glute fabric is close to the glute fabric on Revive. Revive, they did do a baby glute contour, like a bit glute
glute lift a little baby glute.
And that's just on the inner portion, so it literally runs like, I would say, just shy of a half of the way under your glutes, and it's only an inner glute lift, which does create wrinkling below, especially in the leggings. That's something to be aware of. Whereas with pump, it runs the whole way around and it's more compressive in my opinion in terms of that lift. Of the texture for that lift, Revive used the waffle like texture under the glute, whereas pump uses a smooth but denser texture under the glute. So there is a textural difference there as well. Moving on to the scrunch, I actually find that the Revive scrunch sits a lot better. Revive had the traditional Amplify 4-row scrunch, and I mean, tell me if you think I'm wrong, but putting them side by side, I feel like Revive scrunch looks a lot better than pump. And I also feel like, low-key, Revive looks more flattering on me. I could be wrong, but I feel like it is, even though technically it shouldn't be because it's less of a lift. I just feel like Revive looks a little bit more flattering on me when I look at these objectively. But those are the differences between pump and other ALPHALETE bottoms. Okay, so I guess with pump, that leads me on to the question that I have probably been most asked, which is this contour, amplify or Revive? And my honest answer right now, I have only had this stuff since Monday, and it's Thursday today. I've only had my full package since Monday. I've had a pair of shorts since previous Monday, so 2 weeks. I genuinely don't know. If I'm gonna give you my honest answer, having reviewed my try-on footage, like Revive looks best on me, but I do like pump. With it being such a new product, it's completely different from ALPHALETE products, especially with the scrunch. I personally feel like I won't know where this ranks for me properly until I've had it for 1 to 2 months, because the biggest test of how good is this, how much do I like this product for me, is how much am I reaching for it. And with pump, there's no excuse because I have neutrals, I've got colours in it, so there's no excuse of, oh well, I don't really like the colours it came in. There's really going to be no excuse in terms of the pump colour palette. But honestly, I'm probably going to have to let you guys know my final thoughts in the next ALPHALETE drop, because I've not had this long enough and it's a brand new product, and I've made the mistake before of making a really strong opinion of, I really don't like this at all, or I really actually love this. I don't like to have such a strong reaction straight away anymore. I can say with absolute certainty, much prefer the mesh panel to be changed. I want the logo to be changed and get rid of that sort of weird box looking thing, and I also want the scrunch to be changed as well. Those are like my main things that I want to change about pump, and then I think I would be preferring it more. But right now I genuinely don't know. I don't hate it. I also am not absolutely obsessed with it, and I'm not going to pretend that I am. 50-50 on it at the moment. I feel like it's gonna take more use and more wear. Please let me know what you guys think. I think Revive looks best on me. I think that's the most flattering, and I feel like a lot of that is because of the scrunch. I do, however, love that ALPHALETE tried to do something different and put their own spin on this and didn't just regurgitate someone else's product, because my issue with DFYNE is I'm not comfortable wearing that. It's way too tight on the thigh. Fabric is super itchy for me, and it's too obvious looking for me. I feel really uncomfortable in it, and I just don't think it looks that good on me. And I really appreciate the fact that the textures are not so different, so it gives a subtle lift. Yes, it's much more subtle in terms of how tight it is, but it's much more subtle to the eyeball as well, and I personally do appreciate that. So if you are someone who's wanted to dabble in the glute compression, but when you've tried it, it just looks too obvious for you, or you don't love that, then I would say it's worth giving pump a go. If you are, you know, you're diehard DFYNE, you love everything about DFYNE, rise, you love the waistband, you love how tight it is, I think you probably might not love pump, but it's not meant to be the same product, because ultimately DFYNE have impact, so you can always go and buy DFYNE's impact. It wouldn't make sense for ALPHALETE to basically remake DFYNE's impact. But yeah, those are the pump bottoms. Please let me know what you guys think, because I'm so intrigued to hear everyone's feedback. I think a compression legging is really hard to get right because everyone's built different. And between the shorts and leggings, the shorts actually cut my glutes off, whereas the leggings don't, even though they measure the same. I just feel like there's a lot of moving parts, and it's really hard to please everyone with a compression bottom because we're all built so different. Okay, now that pump is done, we're going to move on to the Sandy bra. This is a brand new bra for ALPHALETE. Fabric is the exact same fabric blend as all of the seamless pieces, and it's not that waffle texture in terms of the fabric on this that's on the leggings. However, it does have the waffle texture around the back, and it also runs under bust here for a little bit more of like a lift, and like it sort of pushes them this way and up a little bit. It really gives you a lift in this bra. Before I even get into details, you absolutely must size up in this bra. This isn't just my opinion, this is also ALPHALETE have said this themselves. They've gone and measured every single bra and they've come in an entire size small in every single colour, in every single size. So please size up in this bra. For reference, I'm usually a small in all of ALPHALETE's bra. In this one I'm a medium, and honestly even a medium is still a little tight on my lats. I could probably do a large in this bra. That's how small it runs, but I am happy with a medium. If in doubt, one size up. If you have a really wide back, you might want to size it up 2, because technically sizing it up 2 would actually be getting a size up. That makes sense because it's already running a size small. On to the details of this bra. So you've got the A logo here, and it is like the leggings and the shorts. I don't know if it's going to show up on camera, where it kind of has like a box texture around it, which makes it stand out even more, which I don't love. Wish it was tonal. I don't really like non-tonal branding anymore. If I could make all ALPHALETE's branding tonal, I would. And have a very deep and sort of wide cut in the front. This is a very booby bra. It's pretty low coverage. I would say it's pretty low coverage. And then you have a scrunch in the middle here, this sort of ruching effect. I wasn't sure on, but I actually do really enjoy. But the labelling is printed in, which is a constant change now for ALPHALETE Seamless, which I do much prefer. And then under bust, you can see here, it actually curves under bust, so it's not flat, which is super flattering as well. And then like I said, you've got that mesh paneling, double layered in the front, comes with padding. I personally take it out because the padding in the seamless bras is crap. Really stiff, it's really rigid, it can peel. It's just not good quality in my opinion. So in the white you can see the padding, just to make you aware. So you would need to put the padding against your skin or wear nipple covers. If you take the padding out, white isn't sheer, as in you can't see through both layers. It's actually pretty thick. There's no branding around the back, it just comes into this. And then here you can actually adjust this bra. So you can either wear it with the strap straight across at the back, or you can unhook them and cross them over so it fits, instead of being more straight over the shoulder, or of a halter neck with a crossback style. And it's also adjustable in terms of the length as well. The max length on a size small is 14 inches for the strap. The max length on a medium is 15 inches. Now I do want to mention that the seams on this bra are, and the straps in particular, are much thicker than ALPHALETE's other bras that they have done. You have a decent amount of bounce to them, but they are thicker, which I do find makes them dig in a little bit more. The adjusters on this bra are awful. They are so stiff, so hard to maneuver. That is one thing that really lets this bra down, because the sizing issue and the adjusters and how bulky it all gets back there, which I'll talk about in a second. I actually really like this bra. It's really flattering from the front. From the front, this is one of ALPHALETE's most flattering bras on me, but the adjusters are so stiff. I was legit fighting for my life trying to move the adjusters. So the adjusters, in my opinion, need quite a lot of work. And I've also noticed that they are tonal, yes. I don't know if you guys are gonna be able to see. Hopefully you can see the paint has actually already started coming off on my Sahara colour. So do be aware, even though they're tonal, it won't stay that way for long, because I've had that a week and it's already started coming off. And then the other issue that you run into, guys, why is this so bulky? Because these straps are so bulky, if you are someone who is going to need a lot of length, which I am, because especially for me, I prefer to wear this crossed over, which means you need more length anyway to not absolutely kill your trap. This creates so much bulk. If you are hip thrusting, if you are benching, you're really gonna feel it, and it's honestly quite uncomfortable. Whilst I appreciate that the thicker straps, it feels a little bit more supportive, it's not practical. I think it's making the adjusters run really stiff, and it also just creates so much bulk here that when you're training it's actually quite inconvenient. And if you're putting a top over the bra, you've just got this massive knob on your back which I don't think looks the best. Like, she's moving, but she's taking her time, you know? One of my main gripes, other than the sizing, which, just to reiterate, if you skip past that, these run an entire size small. You need to size up naturally, and I would honestly say if you are wide in the back, like you've got really big lats, you might want to go up 2 sizes, because for me, even in the medium, I'm happy with the medium. It looks good from the front and it's generally quite comfortable. It's still really squeezing my lats at the back, even in a medium. The medium is technically a small, so I would have needed a medium, but because the sizing's wrong, it's actually a large, if that makes sense. You might want to go up 1 sizes, you might want to go up 2, but I would not recommend that you size down in this. Even if you are the narrowest person in the world, you're going to be in pain, okay, if you size down in this. In terms of side boob coverage, I actually find this really decent. In terms of the coverage under bust as well, really decent, doesn't move around much, stays in place really well, and because you've got that curve, it feels a lot more coverage even though it's so narrow here. In terms of support, it's low support. There isn't really much support in this. If you have implants or small boobs, you might be pushing medium just because it is such a tight fit, but for anyone else, it's going to be a low support bra. In terms of trap comfortability, this isn't a comfy all day wear bra because it's got those thicker straps. I do find that after about 2-3 hours, even the medium, I need to take it off. It does dig in, but it's fine to train in, whereas the size small, I was in pain even in the gym. Obviously you can wear the straps either way, but do be aware that if you are gonna wear them straight over, they don't stay in place that well and they do twist. In my opinion, I would recommend that you cross them over at the back. First of all, I think it looks better, but second of all, it keeps things in place a lot better. And I also find that when you cross them over, you get more of the push-up effect. This bra looks best on everyone when it's worn crossed over from front or back, because when you wear it sideways, it kind of fits a little weird here and it starts going really wide, whereas if you wear it around the neck, it gives you a really nice line of coverage. That's the only way I can describe it. In terms of sweat proof, it's not sweat proof, it does show sweat. In terms of pilling, I've not experienced pilling yet, but it is that standard amplify fabric on the bust, so you do need to be mindful with bags and friction and anything rubbing up against it that it might start bobbling and pilling. Another thing to note is there is also this like random blob of stitching on all the pieces, which I'm assuming is where it's sort of made into one, because otherwise it's completely seamless. In terms of comparing this to that seamless halter, because I feel like it's comparable, because this can be kind of worn halter style, it just crosses at the back, it's got that ruching in the front. I've had a lot of questions about this to that, totally different. This fits so much tighter. This in a size small is 10 inches under bust and it has not much stretch to it at all, guys. Like, it's really quite stiff, there's not a ton of stretch to it, whereas the size small in this one is 12 inches, so it's 2 inches wider and it also just has so much more give to it. I could have done an extra small in these, but in these, like I said, I'm a medium and I could probably even do a large for my lats because they are quite wide around the back. The other halter, it's a true halter and it has that one adjuster. The straps are a lot thinner. This is the old one, this is the new Sandy bra. They're not obviously the exact same, this is a true halter, but I just feel like style wise they're quite similar. Even though this one looks like it gives more coverage here, because this one curves under, I actually find I get more coverage with this, just got more structure to it and it feels better made. It honestly feels really nice quality. The only issues with it is the adjusters, the bulkiness of the adjusters, but other than that, the quality of it feels really nice, and for such a minimal bra, I do feel a little bit more held in with it. I personally prefer it to the seamless halter. For that reason, I just feel like it shapes me better, whereas in the seamless halter, I feel like my tits are just kind of sitting there. This one is really going to give you a push and a lift, but remember, you must size up at least one size because they run an entire size small. If you're only going to do one thing for this video, size up in the Sandy bra if you're going to get it, please. My overall thoughts on the Sandy bra are I actually really like it. I just need them to, I want them to keep this as one of their like standard bras that they do in more colours. I just need them to fix the adjusters, the thickness on the adjusters, and also the sizing. That really needs to be fixed as well, because even in the medium, like I said, it's good here, but it's still quite tight around the back, and it's just, it needs some tweaks. It's not perfect, but I do really like it, and I can tell you now, you will be seeing me wear this a lot for my workouts. I'm also having to keep in mind I did get sent these for free, I didn't pay for them, and I'm not sure how I'd feel about paying for it when it has the issues that it has with the sizing, with the adjusters, with them being so stiff, with it being so bulky. I'm not sure. Okay, moving on, push tanks. I'm doing these quick because they've already dropped before, so there's not too much to go over. Details really quickly. These are basically a seamless cami top. The details that you have here is very narrow straps. These straps sit very narrowly and quite far into the chest. You've got quite a low cut in the front. You have this shaping under bust here, so it's kind of like shapewear in a top, like you can see here where it sort of leaves room for the bosom. And then you also have some contouring around the side, but it's definitely not snatching in terms of the body. It's the tits that are going to be asking, like begging, pleading for their life. I would say it's a long crop. It's a glorified crop top. It's a meet and greet. it's a crop top. With pump, for example, it does meet just about over the top of the waistband, and that's mid-rise on me. So I do find that when I walk, it does ride up a little bit. The only change with this is the logo. So the A logo is now on the back and it's stickered on, whereas before it was ALPHALETE. Personally, I don't love this, but this wasn't actually meant to be there. I know that Christian didn't actually want this here, so this was a mistake. It's not meant to be there, so I'm sure that for future drops they will be fixing that. I even suggested to them just making this no branding, because I really don't think it's needed when it's such an everyday piece. Personally, I'm a big details girl, as we've probably gathered by now. I just don't like the fact that you've got this A logo again in the sort of box. I don't know what it is with the A logo, it's like it's in a box, and then if you were to wear an ALPHALETE bottom, it's going to say ALPHALETE. I don't like that it's not consistent, and I would rather it just have no branding. In terms of the straps, they are adjustable and they are easy adjusters. The straps aren't so thick on this, and the adjusters glide like a dream. They're not stiff on this at all, and it's really easy to adjust there. A built-in bra, which also has the shaping built in again. So you've got the shaping on the front of the top, and then you've got the shaping on the built-in bra underneath for like double maximum lift. Fabric wise, it's the same as all seamless fabrics. It's that softer, slippy sort of seamless fabric, and they are single lined, other than where obviously the bra is, where it's thicker. I will say that again, it's similar to pump. The brown feels a lot softer and a lot slicker, whereas the acai berry feels a little bit rougher, not quite as soft. So there are differences between colours in terms of feel, but I don't find it impacts the fit too much. I got this in a small and medium because they just sent me the small, otherwise I would have just asked for medium. I am a medium in the push tank. Reason being is it's very tight over bust. In my opinion, it runs really small over bust, and it runs really small on the built-in bra as well. The bottom band is really tight. Even in the medium, it pudges me a little bit underneath. Even in the small, the waist of this, it's not sculpting or snatching, it's just kind of a body fit. So when you go up a size, it doesn't make a ton of difference. I'll show you guys side by side so you can see. It doesn't go like super loose in the waist in a medium. If anything, I just feel like a lot of ALPHALETE pieces are tight in all the wrong places. Like, I personally would like this to be more snatching in the waist, and yeah, give us a little bit of a boob lift if we want one, but it doesn't need to be so tight. Like with a lot of ALPHALETE tops, they're tight in all the wrong places. Head on the side of caution, because I know that some people like compression. With my sizing advice last time, and I said stay true to size. If you're between sizes or a little bit conscious, size up. And then I got a lot of DMs from people who stayed true to size in the push tank because they thought they liked compression. They found actually no, this just runs really tight. I just thought it was me, but it's clearly not. So I would honestly advise you to take a size up in the push tank, unless you are super narrow in the bust, super narrow under bust. That would be my sizing advice. It does show sweat. Like I said, with rolling, it does roll up. With movement, with arm raising, with walking, it does ping up a little bit. It doesn't stay like perfectly in place. Straps stay in place pretty well. I don't find that they twist or roll down. Pretty comfortable as well. I don't find that they dig in too much. The discomfort with this is in the built-in bra because it's too tight, and it's also tight over bust. Your girl is spilling out of the cebolinas in this. In terms of when you go a size up, you get a tiny little bit more length, but it also doesn't really make a difference. So this is basically just a long crop. The only other thing I would mention is the straps do sit really narrowly in. So for me, I find I get a lot of side boob with this, even in a medium. It's not my favourite because of that. The straps are just very narrow. So if you've got a really narrow chest or very narrow build, I think you'll like this. But if you've got bigger boobs, or your boobs sit out to the side a little bit more, or you're just naturally a bit more broad and you don't want to emphasize that, I don't think you will love this because the narrow straps really emphasize it. If you love your broadness, you will love it because it's going to emphasize it. But if you don't love that, where it does emphasize it, and if your boobs sit more outwards like mine do, you're going to get a lot of side boob in it. In terms of support, low support. This top doesn't give you any support. Despite how tight it is, it's still low support. I tried to run in it, and even for me, it was low support. So yeah, that's the push tank. She is a brand favourite. A lot of the athletes love it, a lot of customers love it, but the general sizing advice is it runs small, and you generally would want to size up in it. For me personally, it's not my favourite. I have other tank tops that I would rather wear that are comfier and that I feel flatter my physique better. This just makes me feel really broad, in all honesty. I don't hate it, but I also don't love it either. So for me personally, it's not a top pick, but a lot of people love the push tank. Okay, moving moving on to the shape jacket. This is a new seamless jacket and we've got it in a small and a medium. I just want to preface this because as I'm filming this review, I feel like I'm kind of pooping on everything, and I'm not. I just feel like I want to be level-headed about the products and say how I really feel and be as honest as I always am. And I feel like around the pump drop, because it's such a big innovation, not from ALPHALETE because they want us to be as honest as possible, but I just personally feel bad. Like, I feel like there's a little bit of pressure to really love it, and I don't hate the stuff. I don't hate pump. I'm just not sure it's my favorite thing ever yet, and it's also really hard when everyone else loves it because I don't want to feel like a negative Nancy, and I don't want to feel like the one person that's just like, oh, does she fucking like anything, this bitch? Yeah, I do apologise if I'm coming across negative because I really don't want to. I just want to be honest, and I can honestly love something. I can honestly also think I'm not sure about things. Shape jacket, let's get into the details. Fabric blend is the same as all the other seamless pieces. I would say this feels like the push tanks, to be honest. But again, I do find that the purple colour, weirdly not the black, and the white even in the jacket, and the Sahara colour, it just feels stiffer. So there are differences between colours even in the jacket, so that's just something to know. Not to the point where you need to say change size in between colours, but it is a notable difference. Like, this isn't as soft as my black one. Like, my black one feels silkier. Anyway, she's a seamless jacket, she's a full zip, so let's get into the details. You have a collar, you have a full zip which has the lockable zipper, which basically means if you zip it down, tug on it, but you've locked it, it won't zip down further. So it basically locks the zip in place. If you leave it up, then it will, but if you keep it down, it won't. You've got ALPHALETE here, non-tonal branding, and it's just a sticker logo. Again, inconsistent branding between pieces, which I don't personally love. I can at least appreciate that this is tiny. They've not put the big A logo on it. For me personally, logos on jackets should be back of neck. I don't want to see it on the front. I don't want to be a walking advertisement when it comes to a jacket, especially because it's such a out and about piece as well. It's not always a gym piece. I prefer as minimal branding as possible when it comes to my seamless jackets. Then you've got long sleeves, no thumb holes, and then coming into the body, it's actually dipped at the front here, so it sort of tapers down. There's no pockets on it. You have some contour detailing around the side, and then at the back it's just completely plain. There's no branding or anything. It's obviously shorter at the back. You do have this seam that runs all the way down the middle at the back, which I believe is something to do with construction, but my other seamless jackets that I have don't have it, so I don't love that. I just think it makes it look a little bit as clean finish looking, in my opinion. She does fit longer than the Aura Sculpt, and I will compare it in full in a second, but what ALPHALETE push tank, you know, I just want some true full length options, and I know that they're coming, but I'm being so patient, and I've been asking for years, and it feels like they decided to give us an extra inch, but we're really having to fight for the extra 2. You know, especially because the Aura Sculpt was a meet and greet length, a long crop length. It would have been nice for the next jacket to have been just a normal long jacket length, but it's what it is. Second gripe is this collar is so stiff, and it's stiff so that when you zip it up, it doesn't strangle you, but if you're moving around, it's not the most comfortable. Also, when you zip this down, the collar just sort of sticks up. Like, you can't get it to look, no, it just looks really clunky. Like, the collar just sort of sticks up, and I don't love how it looks. Same collar that's on the Casio bra, so if you like that, you will like this. For me, I don't love it. It's completely stiff. It has no stretch to it. It sits up really funkily when it's unzipped, which is how I would wear it. When it's zipped all the way up, quite uncomfortable when you're moving around. It just feels really restrictive. There's no pockets on it, which, to be honest, with seamless jackets, I feel like it's quite hard to put pockets on them, so I'm not actually too mad at that, but in an ideal world, I would prefer a pocket. And obviously the seam down the back and the logo I would personally change as well. I'm going to go over sizing before I compare. This jacket is so tight on the arms. I wore this to training in a size small last week. I had to take it off. I did not want to take it off because I was wearing the sandy bra in a size small, which was too small, and I felt, first of all, like the village whore, but second of all, I was so uncomfortable because everything was bulging out in the wrong places because I was wearing sizes that don't fit. And I had this goddamn jacket on that was so really tight across the shoulders and really tight through the arm. So I actually had to take it off because it was hurting here, like in my elbow crease. Like, when a jacket is too tight, that's where it hurts, and that's where this was hurting me. Like, the arms are just way too tight on this. But then the annoying thing is the waist isn't. Like, the arms are probably 10 times tighter than the waist is. Like, the compression I get on my arms in this jacket in a size small is insane. And the size small, it does taper to the waist nicer than the Sculpt jacket, for example, in my opinion. It's still not actually compressing me, it's just sitting on my body. It's not actually, whereas on my arms, I'm like, I can't move my arms, I feel like I'm gonna cut my blood circulation and die. Not to be dramatic, but I'm not joking. This is seriously tight on the arms. It's quite tight over chest too, but I would say the arms is where I notice it the most. I just feel like I said this with the push tank, ALPHALETE's tops are tight in all the wrong places. Like a BBL jacket, it should snatch in the way. I'm not asking for wrinkly arms with loads of room, but I am asking to not feel like my blood circulation's been cutting off. I think it's asking for too much. Like everything's tight in the wrong places. The Aura jacket, it wasn't super sculpted on the waist or tight on the waist, but it was really tight over bust. Just feel like they're fitting tight in the wrong places for the type of product. Like we want these products to snatch us in the waist, not in the arm. With that being said, I'm gonna go over sizing. I got these in a small and a medium, 100% prefer a medium. Now in a medium, is the waist less snug and do I have a bit more excess fabric? Yeah, I cannot wear the size small because it's so uncomfortable on my arms, and I also feel like because it's fitting so tight around the arms and shoulder, the seams look really weird, like it all just looks off. Nothing's sitting quite right up top because of how goddamn tight the arms are. But I personally prefer a medium. If you are someone who does not store any fat in your arms whatsoever, you're a lean bee and you really want a compressive fit, you can probably stay true to size. But most people, I would strongly advise you size up in the jacket, not for the waist, but for the arm. Considering even if you go true to size, you're not really going to snatch your waist that much anyway. Going a size up doesn't make a ton of difference in it. It's not like you really snatched in the waist in a small and then you lose it all when you go to a medium. There isn't that much in it in the waist, but in the arms, it's so much more comfortable. I would highly recommend that you size up in it. If you live in a warmer climate, you might find that this is too dense for you because it's not super thin. It's actually quite a thick jacket, so that's just something to be aware of. In terms of movement, I do find that with movement and sort of moving my arms around, not rolling around, but you know the drill, I do find the bottom of this does kind of come up and I do have to readjust it, but when I'm walking, because of the way it's tapered, it doesn't actually ping up too much, which I don't mind. In terms of where this sits lengthwise on my body, it sits really nicely with all of ALPHALETE's seamless bottoms. It covers my waist, it definitely goes over the top and then it comes down a little bit, and I do like around the back it is quite short, it just about meets, and I do find with movement I end up with a little bit of skin peeking out, so that's something to be aware of. Now in terms of comparing this to the old Amplify jacket, the old Amplify jacket I've actually got on in an extra small and it's way comfier. Probably comfier than even the medium if I'm going to be real. It was just so much softer, stretchier and nowhere near as tight in the arms, and that's the original Amplify jacket. I believe that's in Thundercloud. Collar is also much nicer on that because it's soft, it's stretchy, it doesn't strangle you. If I'd have had that sort of silkiness and stretchiness to the fabric and that fit but in a long version, that would be the perfect seamless jacket. Like that jacket was really nice, and in terms of how that feels on my skin, branding also is at the back of the neck. In terms of how that feels on my skin and the arms and the tightness and stuff, I do actually prefer that, but I prefer the length of this because obviously I'm not a cropped girly anymore. That one's about 14 inches, this one is about 5 inches longer at about 19 inches, so it is a lot longer than the Amplify jacket. And then in terms of comparing this to the Aura sculpt, this one, whilst it doesn't snatch the waist because it's not got that bulkiness at the bottom, it does taper the waist better than the Aura sculpt does. Obviously that one's got pockets, this one doesn't. The Aura sculpt one is that soft buttery brushed fabric, this one is not. It's like a stiffer seamless in most colours. Obviously some colours are softer, but most colours. This one has more contouring details. Aura was a lot more plain. Branding was tonal on Aura and at the bottom so you don't really notice it. Branding on this is a lot more noticeable. Collar on Aura was also completely different to the collar on this one. This one's stiff, it goes all the way up, whereas on Aura it's kind of clean finish and it doesn't really have that full-blown collar. It also doesn't zip all the way up. Both have a lockable zipper. Aura has thumb holes, and then finally Aura is not as tight in the arm. Aura was quite tight over the chest compared to the arm on this. Oh, it's very comfortable. Aura less tight on the arms but also less like tapered on the waist and a lot more bulky. It's got more structure to it, I would say. This one is thinner so it's able to sit to the body better, but the arms on this are so much tighter. In terms of sweat, you will see sweat in this jacket. It's not sweat proof, it's a seamless fabric, but it does dry pretty quickly. And in terms of pilling, I honestly feel like this jacket is highly likely not going to pill a ton just because most of the colorways don't feel quite so soft, so that's a plus to it. In terms of the white, it's completely see-through, so like the pump bottoms, it's completely see-through to the point where I personally think it looks a little bit silly how see-through it is. I'm just going to show you guys that here, but the white jacket is completely see-through. I've got white on underneath it, and especially with the sandy bra because you can see the logo through it, and then obviously you've got the logo of the jacket on top, it looks a little bit bit clunky and a little bit messy in my opinion. Personally, I don't love the jacket, and I'm gonna wait until they do a better one so that I have like a solid recommendation for you guys. Both the jackets that they've done have been a miss for me for different reasons. Neither of them are my favourite, just being completely honest. I prefer other zip-up jackets that I have. ALPHALETE are yet to do one that I personally prefer, but I'm sure that they will. The jacket is a miss for me. I just feel like the collar, the arm, it just needs to be tweaked and perfected. Looks good, but in terms of how it feels on, not the most comfortable, and that's something I really appreciate in my active wear or things I'm going to wear day to day. So not my personal favourite. I probably wouldn't recommend. Know me is to know, oh god, we're really clearing the rack and it's music to my eyeballs because I've been filming since 12 and it's 3:15. Nice. The baby tees are back, but these are the varsity baby tees. So basically it's the exact same. It's 94 cotton, 6 elastane, literally the exact same. The only difference is you've got new branding on it, and I really like that ALPHALETE are trying out some prints for women. I feel like we always get lumped with unisex stuff. I like stuff like this. I think it's really cute, and I'm a minimal branding girly, but I think this top is really cute. So in terms of detail, you've just got the standard t-shirt neckline at the front here, comes into like cap sleeves, so it's not like a full short sleeve. It actually has like a little bit of a cap cut to it. It's sort of cut more diagonal rather than being cut straight. Actually really flattering. And then ALPHALETE is stickered on. The only thing is this obviously is stickered on, and I've not had them long enough to know if it's going to peel or crack. I will have to let you know, but obviously with it being such a big logo, if it does, that will be a big problem because it's going to be really obvious looking. In terms of length, meet and greet length, so this meets the top of Amplify, but obviously as soon as you walk, meets the top of Pump. As soon as you walk, this does move around. In terms of sizing for these, I go down a size, and I would say if you got the last drop of baby tees and you got the yellow and the pink, they were quite sheer, weren't they? And they were quite stretchy and thick. These ones, I've only got the black and the emerald green, but they're definitely on the tighter side in my opinion. Not to the point where you don't need to size down, but it's that typical baby tee where it's a little bit thicker and it fits a little bit tighter and it's not got quite as much stretch to it. It still has stretch, it's just not quite as stretchy as those light colours from the last drop, so you don't need to change sizing. I'm just making you aware. The green and the black are both completely fine. I can wear these without a bra. They're not actually see-through for me in the dark colours. Light colours obviously will be. Sweat, these do show sweat, and in terms of like shrinkage and stuff, they don't shrink in the wash, but what will happen is when you wear it through the day, you'll stretch it, you'll tug on it, and it will expand, but the next time you wash it, it shrinks back to how it was when you first put it on, if that makes sense. It retains its shape well over time with wash, but through the day it does bag out a little bit, but that's the only shrinkage you experience. It doesn't shrink beyond the size it is when you get it. They do show sweat and they also stink, so if you wear these and sweat in them, you really need to wash it as quick as you can and not just sit in it all day, because you will be honking, okay? There's something about this fabric that gets really stinky if you get sweaty. I know that sometimes people like to get 2 days out of a top, for example. You can't do that with this. It will stink once you've sweated in it, no matter the deodorant, so that's something to be aware of. Obviously you can wear these multiple ways. Wear it meet and greet in its full length, you can crop it, you can also bolero it. I wasn't sure you'd be able to because of how the branding is done, but if you curve it around the ALPHALETE, it actually looks quite cute in my opinion. But I would probably just crop it or wear it long with these ones because it could get a little bit dicey with the branding. But honestly, I love these and I'm really happy to see them doing a different branding. I love minimal branding. I love how minimal the baby tees are, but I was getting bored of them, and I just love how this looks. Like, I wore this black one with the white shorts to the gym last week with like a snatched ponytail. I felt so hot. It looked quite pretty actually. I'm happy to see them doing prints. Love these. I think they're well priced. It's one of ALPHALETE's best products in my opinion. They last really well. I've not had an issue with any of them, and I have no notes. I'm very happy to have more baby tees, and I can't wait to see them expand on the prints that they're doing on them. Cute as fuck. I also feel like this might be based off a request I made, because I did send a request like a year ago, so if it is, thank you, ALPHALETE. Can you believe it, guys? We're on to the home stretch. Can't quite believe it myself. Anyway, we're just going to go over tenacity and then we are done and dusted. So very quickly, this fabric is 70 nylon, 30 spandex. I swear, and I've said this, when tenacity started it was 75-25. Now it's 70-30. Regardless, that is the fabric. I will say I used to describe tenacity as being somewhere between comfort and performance, because it used to be a lot less brushed. It was still brushed, but it used to be a lot less brushed, and it used to have a lot less sort of give and stretch to it. Recent drops, and especially with this drop, I personally feel like it's a lot more brushed, to the point now where I'm like, this is just a slightly denser, slightly tighter version than Aura. Like, it doesn't have any slick feeling to it whatsoever. It sort of feels like suede. That's the way I would describe how Tenacity feels now, but it feels like by the drop getting more and more and more brushed. So with that being said, it does show sweat, and in my experience it takes quite a while to dry. It does pill because it's got that more brushness to it now, so it is pill prone. Another thing to be aware of, especially with bright, is that when you sweat in these and get them wet, the dye does run quite a lot. I've actually had the dye run onto my skin, and I've actually sweated in, I can't remember which bra it is, it's one of the bras from the last drop, and then washed it, and it's like the sweat stain is still in there because it's not sweat, it's water that's made the dye run, and now the dye has just gone kind of fucked up. And I know that that happened to a couple of you as well, so do be aware if you're interested in bright. You really need to be careful with the sweat situation because something seems to be going on with the sweat and the dye. But yeah, that is Tenacity fabric. It's more compressive than Aura, but honestly in terms of hand feel at this point they feel really similar because Tenacity is just getting more and more brushed. If you want Tenacity fabric in depth, I've done it already, but I'm just gonna skip over that because that is basically all you need to know about Tenacity fabric, and I will leave a more detailed description below where I compare it to other ALPHALETE fabric, other brands fabrics. But yeah, that's the long and short of it. First product, Lina bra. This dropped in the last drop, so again I've literally just reviewed it, so I don't want to harp on it too much. So I hope this doesn't feel like I'm rushing through it. I just don't want to go into that same level of depth again, because if you're watching this you probably watched that one. I will give you everything you need to know regardless. So this is the Lina bra. She comes with padding. I always take the padding out. They did send me a medium in this just for reference with the try on clips by accident. I'm a size small in Lina. I wouldn't recommend sizing up. I would stay true to size. I would only size up if you are between sizes, but generally I would say it fits really true to size. So you've got this sort of, it's almost squared and then it goes into like a sort of heart neckline at the front here, which is really flattering. It is quite low cut and boobyish, but it's really flattering. I find it because of the cut, it gives a nice lift. Have decent side boob coverage, and then it curves under bust here. There's no elastic band to keep it in place, but it does stay in place pretty well with movement in my experience. In terms of the branding on this, it's just the little rubber tonal logo, and I've worn my yellow Lina bra a lot. I've not actually noticed the logo coming off yet, so it seems to have a decent level of durability at least. And then in terms of the darts, you've got darts at the side here. Now if darts have no haters, I have departed God's green earth because they never line up properly, ever. You take this off and you put it back on, the darts do not line up properly and it just looks bad. It just creates weird clunk, which I don't personally love, so I would like to see darts be gone, unless it's a piece where there's no padding in it, so it's sewn. They basically just come apart, so you end up with one line here, and then the dart from the inside will be all the way down here, and you end up with a weird triangle looking thing on the side of your tip. Into the back, it's not adjustable in terms of the length, so you can't adjust the length of the straps, but you can adjust these here, so you can either wear them pushed out or you can wear them close together. I personally prefer it how it looks when it's pulled together. I find it more flattering on my back, but also when you wear them pushed to the side, you will get a weird sort of little pouch here, which I just think looks a little bit clunky, and I don't love how it looks. And I also find that when you pull the straps to the side, the chest doesn't necessarily fit as well, because it is definitely like a comfier, stretchier bra, so I personally just prefer to keep them in the front. I did say in my last haul I was undecided on how I felt about this because of that design. It looks like it's hiking in the back, but the more I've worn it, I actually really like it and I don't care about it. But I've seen pictures of me in it, I've seen me training in it, and I think it looks fine. I still am not obsessed with the fact it looks like it's hiking in the back, but it's not as bad as I thought it would be, and it's not something that's been bothering me, just to give you guys an update on that. That's the Lina bra. So in terms of support, this is a low support bra. It's not going to give you any support whatsoever. You push the straps to the side, it does make it fit a little looser, so that's something to be aware of as well from a support point of view. In terms of pilling, obviously it's Tenacity fabric, so it's brushed. You do need to be careful, it can pill. In terms of sweat, like I mentioned, it will show sweat, and with the bright colours it can cause issues with the dye. I don't know what's going on there, so I would just be mindful with that. Obviously we've already gone over sizing, so I'm pretty sure that's it for the Lina bra. I really like this bra. It's probably one of my favourite bras they've done, and if you were wondering between this and the Sandy bra, if you prioritise comfort over anything, go with the Lina bra. It's so comfortable, it's so soft on the skin, and it's not going to be like nipping into you anywhere or anything like that. So I would highly recommend the Lina bra this drop if you prioritise comfort over anything else, and you don't want you want something flattering but not something that's going to feel too much or you're going to be wanting to take it off after 2 hours, I can wear this one all day. I really do like the Lina bra a lot, so this is definitely a top pick for me in this launch. Okay, moving on, we've got the dip back legging and the dip back short. I'm going to talk about these interchangeably because it's literally the same thing. One of them is just a short, one of them is a legging. So the shorts are a 5-inch inseam and the leggings are a 26.5-inch inseam, and I've got both of these in a medium. I've tried leggings in a size small and they were fine, they were okay. They're not my favourite thing in the world, but they were okay. But this time they sent me them in a medium, and the shorts I've only tried in a medium because I decided to pick that one out. So in terms of the details, there is no elastic in the top of the waistband on the tenacity pieces on the front. However, around the back there is this sort of elastic in the back, which I find causes me a lot of like digging in. It just makes me pudge in a way that I don't usually on normal tenacity pieces, but I don't find with the dip back that it causes an issue. I also don't think it adds anything to the bottom, so I wish they'd just take it out of the tenacity pieces because it's not really needed. You've then got the A logo, which is just tonal, and at the side I love how small it is. I love that it's tonal. It doesn't bother me at all because of that, because you literally can't see it. And then it comes into a slightly dipped waistband, but the waistband is not compressive on these in my opinion. The fabric is dense, yes, but you're not going to get amplify compression in tenacity in terms of the waist. It's just not got that like structure or ribbing to it. And then you've got a 5-inch inseam around the back. You have got a little bit of a dip. It's not an intense dip. You still get about 7 inches rise. Where this dip hits you is where an amplify, like shorter rise or a pump bottom would hit you. That's where it's going to hit you because it's about 7 inches. It's just taller around the front. These are 9 inches around the front, so they're a lot higher. But the dip isn't exaggerated just to prove to you, like it's not creeping up on your ass crack, because it's literally the same height as a lot of amplifies in even a size small. You have the tenacity hidden scrunch. Now this is about 5.5 inches, which I don't love because the tenacity scrunch on the everyday core is usually about 4, and it's the same for the cross front, and I personally just think that's a lot more flattering on me. I find that this one just sticks up a little bit too much and I don't love how long it is, so I would like to see this shortened. And honestly the dip back exaggerated a little bit more because I feel like it's not super obvious what it's doing. But with that being said, whether it's the leggings or the shorts, because they both have all those details I've just explained, this isn't going to be a panty shower, so if you're worried about squatting, being able to see things, you really don't need to worry about it with the dip back because it's very subtle. And then in terms of the seam down the side, it's a straight seam, not a curved seam, which again I wish they'd done curved seam. I just think it's more flattering in my opinion. And those details are the same on the legging. It's just a 27-inch inseam. Measure the same, everything is the same. As I've just spoken about squatting, I'm going to put my tenacity squat test in here. Neon coral, you need nude underwear or go commando because it's completely sheer. It's not even stand-up proof if you wear anything dark. And if you've got thigh tattoos, you need to be careful. You will be able to see things in this, so just be mindful of that. Neon coral is very sheer. Silver and cerulean, however, are completely fine, are really decently solid, and I'm very happy with the squat proofness of those. Tenacity tends to do better than seamless, but neon coral is still incredibly sheer. In terms of the rise on these, it's actually different between the shorts and the leggings. I like the fact that they measure the same. They're both 9 inches in rise. The leggings sit more mid to high, whereas the shorts sit more high rise. I think shorts must just have more stretch to them and I can pull them up more, but I'll pop them in side by side so you guys can see. They definitely fit higher than the leggings do. The leggings feel like they're being tugged down a little bit more. Glute flatteringness, they're okay. They're not like out of this world crazy. I don't love the side seam being straight, and I wish that the scrunch was a little bit shorter around the back just to shape the glutes a little bit better. I feel like the contouring isn't quite contouring because of the length of that. Honestly, it's a bog standard plain legging. I wouldn't say it's anything to write home about. For me, the dip back range just feels unfinished. I said it in February, I still feel the same. They just feel unfinished and rushed. It feels like they weren't given the same attention as other pieces, if that makes sense. I just feel like there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense about them. Like the scrunch is so much longer than the other tenacity pieces. The dip back isn't actually that much of a dip back. The side seam is straight. I don't know, I don't personally love these. But I do really like the neon coral colour. It makes you look so tanned. It's so flattering. In terms of camel toe, I do get a camel toe with these. In terms of sweat, like I said, does show sweat, and also with the brights you need to be leery of sweat because it makes the dye run and then it won't come out in the wash and it goes a bit weird. So be aware of that. In terms of sizing, obviously I got both the short and the legging in a medium. I would give the same sizing for these, given that I have tried a size small in the legging before, as I give for all tenacity, or like a high compression, like a bit more of a held in feel, or a cut and sew fabric. Obviously it's not the same as seamless, but it's dense for a cut and sew fabric. Stay true to size. Between sizes, size up. If you've got really thick thighs, size up, and if you hate compression, also size up. I can do a small or a medium, and honestly there isn't much of a difference in it. The medium is just a little bit more comfortable and easier to get on. These aren't my personal favourite. If I was to go with any tenacity bottom, I'd probably get their everyday core bottoms over these ones. Those are my favourite tenacity bottom that they do. And if you like a cross waist, I just personally don't. Those are really nice as well. I just don't love these. They feel really unfinished and rushed. Okay, finally, final piece. We've got the Lina bodysuit, and I've saved one of my favourite pieces to last because I feel like in the pump hype, this is going to get so slept on. Please don't sleep on this. I've been having a fight, a fisticuff if you will, domestic, with ALPHALETE's bodysuits, because I know that some people love the ALLEAR and the Cole bodysuit. For me personally, both of them made me look like a linebacker. They were so criminally unflattering on me that they deserved jail time. And they kept doing super high neck with like the same neckline, and I loved that they were backless. That neckline was so unflattering on me. I didn't love either of them, and I will be completely real, and I said this in my hauls at the time, so it's not a shock to anyone. I have not worn those bodysuits other than for the try-on clips. That's it. If I put on a piece of clothing and it makes me feel worse than I do naked, I'm not wearing it. And that's not me saying I'm going to be the town crier going out naked. I'm just not wearing something that makes me feel worse than I do naked. Why would I do that? I just stay at home, stark bollock naked. To be honest, it's really rare that ALPHALETE put out a piece that makes me feel actually bad about myself. Those bodysuits did. So when I saw they were doing another bodysuit, I was like, oh god. And then I tried it on and I was like, do you know what, ALPHALETE? All sins are forgiven. This is obviously the tenacity fabric, which we've already gone over, so I won't bore you to death with that, but these are the details. So the chest is actually quite similar to Lina. If I show you guys neck and neck, the straps are actually pretty similar between this and the Lina, and so is the cut. Like, it's honestly almost identical. There's probably like a slight difference to it, but Lina bra, Lina bodysuit. They have the same necklines. If you like the Lina, you'll like the bodysuit. Chest area, you've got the side darts, like I said. If darts have no haters, I am dead. Please take them off. They don't line up properly and I don't like them. Come with padding. You can take the padding out, and it does also have like a built-in support. It's not a shelf bra, but it has a built-in support band, shall we say, under bust, so that your boobs aren't going to slip through the bottom. Not sure how effective that will be, I'll be completely honest, but it is there, and it does come with padding. And Tenacity gets the nice padding, the silky padding, the high quality padding, not the shit stuff that Seamless gets. It has really decent side boob coverage as well. There's not too much out, and then it comes into like not a dipped waist, but the waistband at the front, it's slightly curved down. It's not completely straight cut. Looks a bit straighter on the hanger, but once it's on body it does curve a little, and you have a teeny tiny little A logo tonal at the front. Now personally, I would just get rid of it full stop, but I don't hate it because from a distance you literally can't see it. For me to sit and complain about that would be me being dramatic, because you literally can't see it, no one's gonna notice. And then we go into the back. You've got the Lina, so you can actually adjust it the same way that you can with the bra. It's the exact same, so you can pull it out to the side, wear it into the middle, and then it comes into a backless number. So this rise here, rise on the back dip, is actually a little bit higher than the dip back legging, so it's 7.75 instead of 7, and the glute seam is 4.75 inches on the one piece. Glute seam is shorter than the dip back, which I find, it's not perfect, but it does sit in the glutes a lot better than the dip back leggings do, for example. And again, because it is a little bit higher to compensate for the shorter scrunch, you do not need to worry about your knickers being on show. They're not going to be on show. You are going to be completely fine. It's not going to be chafing the top of your butt crack. And then mine in a size small is a 5-inch inseam. The one that I have in a medium is a 5.5-inch inseam. So it seems that the inseam's changeable between sizes, but this is a 5-inch inseam. And this leg opening here, it's not super stiff at all, so it doesn't actually dig in, and it's about 8.5 inches, so it's plenty comfortable. It's not too tight at all. If anything, I would say this is one of the most comfortable Tenacity pieces in terms of how it fits around the leg, especially compared to the first Tenacity pieces. I feel like every drop they're getting stretchier and comfier, so this does not dig into the thigh at all, even in true to size. In terms of camel toe, I do get a camel toe with this, but it's not painful, it's just visible. In terms of sweat, I do find that with this being double layered, tenacity is quite a warm fabric, so it is quite warm up top, and when you sweat it does stick to you a little bit more, which can be a bit uncomfortable. But I will probably wear this more for walking around and errands and stuff rather than doing like intense workouts. But if you are going to work out in it, just be aware it's going to get quite warm because tenacity is already a thick fabric and it's double lined all around here, so it might be quite warm for you. But the back is obviously very open and has a lot of ventilation, which does help. Also find for a one piece I do get a little bit of gaping here, but it's nothing like really bad, which I feel like a lot of the time with a backless one piece the gaping is really severe. I don't actually find it to be that bad on this, so honestly I really like it. In terms of support with this, it's low support because obviously it's completely backless, and yeah, you have that little line, that little band underneath, but it doesn't really do much. It's a low support one piece. Obviously it's got that 5-inch inseam, whether it's 5-inch or 5.5 like on the medium. This does roll, but it's not to the point where it's going to roll and expose my butt cheeks. I do find I have enough length. If I was to be picky, I would prefer this in a biker length. I just feel like giving us it in a biker length would also make it more flattering on the glutes because there would be more fabric to push the glutes up, if that makes sense. I would really like to see them do a one piece in a biker length. In terms of sizing, obviously I got it in a small and a medium because I anticipated I might need to size up, as is sometimes the case with tenacity pieces. I can confidently say you can stay true to size with this, or if you are between sizes I would size down. It's a lot stretchier and a lot comfier than other tenacity pieces, but it also just does fit a little bit bigger. There's not a ton in it between the small and the medium, but the small is perfectly comfortable. Like if the straps weren't a little bit snug for me, I honestly want to try an extra small to be like extra snatched in it. You can go true to size for like a comfortable fit. It's not too tight. It's not like the Cole bodysuit, which in my opinion was really small. You definitely don't need to size up in this. Stay true to size. If between sizes, I would size down. A couple things to note for me with this are strap length. Obviously it's the same as a lina, but because it's a one piece there's a lot more pulling going on. And I think because I am long in the torso, I would like a little bit more extra length on the straps, just because it's comfortable, but after a few hours it does dig in a little bit there. Not to the point where I wouldn't buy it, but to the point where I do notice it, so I would want a little bit of extra length there. And then also it's double lined in the front over the chest portion to give a little bit more support. Because of where the waist cuts, again it could just be because I'm longer torso, I feel like lowering that a tiny bit and then having that double layer a little bit lower would maybe give a little bit more lower stomach compression, which from the side could make it a lot more flattering. And then the final thing is the chest. It does fit quite wide, so if you're narrow on the chest or really small chested, you might actually want to size down full stop because it does fit quite wide. And if you wear it pulled to the side, it does make the chest fit a lot wider, just like the lina bra does. And I find I get gaping even on the small when I wear it pushed to the side, so I prefer it to the middle and it will tighten up that chest region. But if you are super narrow in the chest or really petite in the chest, I would actually recommend you try a size down because it does fit quite wide there. But if you are someone who's found you always need to size up in tenacity, or you always need to size up in tenacity one pieces, not for this one, honey. She fits a lot more true to size. So yeah, in terms of my thoughts on this is by a country mile, like a country mile. This is my favourite one piece that ALPHALETE have done so far. It's so flattering on me. It's really flattering from the front, really flattering from the back. If anything, I would make it a little bit lower at the back, but then I know it would be a bit more risky for some people, and add more length to the inseam just to make it a bit more of a biker length. But I actually do really like this, and I feel like it's going to get slept on because of the pump height. But in my opinion, this is probably one of the pieces I'm most excited about because I just think it's so cute, and the fact we can get it in grey and black for people who maybe not so out there but you might want a cute one piece to wear for walks in summer or Pilates or something like that. I think this is a really nice piece, and it's by far my favourite one piece that ALPHALETE have done to date, so I really do like this piece. I just think the chest needs to be brought in a little bit more length here, and I would love to see it in a biker length as well, just to give the girls a little more length. But other than that, really flattering from the front, really flattering from the back. I actually really like it. Okay guys, that is it for my haul. Hopefully this has been helpful. Hopefully you've had a nice time hanging with me and doing this. It really is. I know I make jokes and I jest about how long these videos take and I'm filming for hours and oh my god, I've been filming for hours, oh my god, my life's so hard. Realistically, this is mind-boggling that this is actually a job for me. Like, this is not a real thing. You'll never be able to convince me that it is. Kind of ridiculous. I'm very lucky to do what I do, so thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting. If you were curious on my top picks for this launch, a baby tee, is always going to make it into a top pick. The Lina bodysuit is also actually a top pick, which I was not expecting at all. The Lina bra is also a top pick for me. Sandy bra I also do really like. I'm just struggling with the top pickness of it because of the issues with it. But I do really fucking like that bra. I think it looks really good, and I know that you guys are going to see me in it an awful lot. And I do like pump, but I'm not saying to you guys I prefer it to contour, I prefer it to this, I prefer it to that. I've not had it long enough to say that yet, but I do actually really like how the shorts look on me in those sort of stretchier colours. So for me, espresso, white and ultraviolet. Just be aware if you're going to get white, she's really fucking sheer. I probably wouldn't recommend it for that reason, but I know some people will buy it anyway. But I feel like those colours fit me best and look best on me, and whether you get shorts or leggings will depend if you're a shorts or leggings girl. The only thing I would bear in mind is with the leggings, I feel like butt pocket will sit better on you if you have more like normal length glutes, because the leggings do sit better on me for the butt pocket and the compression. It doesn't cut my glute off as much as the shorts do. And remember what I said about the different colours. I'm not going over it again, just remember what I said about that because that factors into it as well. If you guys have got any questions, leave them down below or message me on Instagram. I will 100% get back to you before the launch. Apologies for this video going up probably later than most people's, but it takes me a long time to edit. I only got my stuff Monday, most people got theirs last week, and I didn't want to rush it. I want to make sure I'm giving you guys my accurate information. I'm not saying other people aren't being accurate with it, but for me, there's no way that I can receive a package on a Monday and have a video up for a Wednesday and give you accurate information and the level of detail I want to give you. It's just not possible. It's not going to happen. So I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to and you haven't already, and if you do shop with my code, please enter the giveaway, but also message me on Instagram so that I can say big fat thank you, because it's because of you guys that I get to live out my dream of sitting in my sister's old bedroom chatting shit about activewear for 4 hours. It was a pretty nice job, I'm not gonna lie, and I feel very lucky. So I will see you guys in my next video, and I really hope that this has been helpful. You're mine.